What's the point? That's perfectly fine. That's life. If your life is going without a hitch, then you are not living a real life. Because mistakes happen. What I hold here in my hand is a little light. I got into this phase when this AI video generation came out. Because as much as I am of different minds when it comes to AI, about 3 years ago with Night Cafe and the whole text to image generation, I really got into that. Always been an ideas guy, and I've always said before AI, I'm like, I just wish I could just give my ideas to people and watch them bring it to life. And now I can do that with AI. So I kind of been getting into all of it, like the image generation, the music generation. Now I'm noticing this. I'm like, that's not good for presentation. I'm doing a video here for the public, for the people. That's not good for presentation. Video generation is a new thing, and when Minimax came out and they were doing like this whole 3 days free generation, which you still get now. You get 2 days as soon as you sign up, as soon as you click in your email there and you get logged in. That's when your clock starts for 2 days. So I would suggest spending a 10 dineros or whatever it is, and getting the much faster upload rate if you're going to use that. But when that started, and I saw the quality of Minimax, and unlike Kling's like Midjourney to the Udio to the Suno, or DALI 3. That is yeah, Suno. Is that right? I don't know if I repeated myself then. It's a bit late, and it's been a busy day. I've been doing a lot today, but to get to the point, see, part of me just thought then is, oh, I looked at the clock and I became self-aware. You see, I became self-aware. I keep bringing attention to things. The light happened, the fluff thing, and now the time, and all these things are playing on my mind because I'm doing a video. I'm doing a video of me presenting something. Obviously, whatever I'm putting out there, I want someone to pick it up, right? And I'm thinking things like demographic. Okay, people, humans, that's my demographic. For me, all humans. It doesn't get any narrower than that. All humans with ears to listen, and you don't need eyes to see. If you can imagine the concepts I'm saying, if I guess. But that's my demographic. But still, the fact that it's humans in this day and age, it's like, people typically they like things to be faster, concise, well managed, with editing, no mistakes. It's all about presentation, and it's key to keep these things in mind when you are presenting something. So I noticed the fluff of my beanie, my little light thing fell off here, and I looked at the clock and realized it's been like 2.5 minutes, and I haven't even gotten into the real crux of what I'm talking about, though I have been incrementally segueing into it. And I got these because as I was generating all of these videos, I got 3 accounts of Minimax, and I was just downloading, going from one server on my phone to another server on my phone to another open browser, sorry, 3 different browsers, and I was just going and filling up the prompts. And by the time I'm done with the third one, I go back to the first browser and the first account of Minimax that I signed up for, and it's got some free slots for some new video prompts to be inputted. And I just did that. I got about 7, 8 hours sleep in 3 days. Yeah, but I got a lot of content, and I was super excited. I'm like, this is sick. I can bring my ideas to life, and I can kind of get out my vibes and get out my feels, and get out the message or whatever, like so much easier now. And I'll put that there. It's not really doing much. I think I'm just going to turn it off. Same to you, buddy. This is what I've done as a makeshift thing. I've got, I've got a little dustpan thing. And I was like, that works. I can just stick that anywhere I want. And these things, they have like a sticky back, so I don't really want to commit it to one place, like on the wall. So I thought, you know what? I'll put it somewhere facing up, like a little turtle stuck in its back. And every now and then, when I want to film, like that, and she's good to go. But for now, it's a bit weak. It probably works better when the light's off. But yeah, I got those lights because when I download all those Minimax clips, I watch videos and like, how do I edit? Okay, CapCut, that seems to be a good thing to use. Everyone's doing it. So then I looked into like beginner's guides and then master's guides to using CapCut and editing, how to make your videos look professional. And one of the things on there was like, you can buy these lights. They're like $50 if you order online, like Amazon or something. And there's these like cube lights you can stick up and in your space when you're doing like talks and you're filming yourself like myself right now talking. And that says that it's good to have space, it's good to have volume in your shot. So situate yourself forwards, real close, and the camera like against the wall, pretty much in some cases. And if whatever the focal point is, put it quite a bit behind you so there's volume, and put some lighting here and there. So I went out full shebang, got the lights, got a bunch of stuff. Even this light here. Let's have a play with it. Where's the button at? Where's the button at? Here we go. Even this little light can change. Oh, it can't change. Well, that's a bit disappointing. That's a bit disappointing. That's okay. That one changes. I've got a whole bunch. Too many. I got way too enthusiastic thinking, wow, technology is wicked. I'm an ideas guy. I have so much cool ideas. I can bring it to life and make some money. I can make some videos. I can now generate mine. Is it really mine? My own music and create cool stuff and get it out there and maybe make a living with it, right? Kind of started leaning into that way of thinking. Didn't really commit for too long because it doesn't take long if you're a realist and if you're a grounded individual. When you start looking into like the whole thing of being a content creator, and you start doing it a little bit, like you just start kind of getting in the ring and stretching and doing a few back bumps, like you start doing the basic moves and practicing just to get a feel for it, and you start to get a feel for what it's kind of like and what it's about. um yeah, for me personally, it's just not balanced. I'm a balanced individual, and that whole thing's not balanced. It requires way too much obsessing, way too much obsession with how things appear, from the outside looking in. Hence, at the start, I noticed this little fluff. Um, and I noticed the time that had passed, and I'm like, oh, I don't want it to appear as if I've got nothing of value to say because 2 minutes and a half have passed, and I'm still in the introduction. People need it quick, and that brings me to the first point: is the whole Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, which you know it is what it is, isn't it? And it's interesting. It's bringing up a lot to discuss among people. There's a lot of people that are just kind of pooping on the situation and calling it a snooze fest and a cash grab on Mike Tyson's part. And part of me thinks, poor Tyson, if this was genuine and he genuinely, because some people are saying that he was saying he didn't feel good after like a round or two or so, and like he was nearly dying a few months ago. People seem to forget. Everyone seems to forget that phrase has already been exhausted, but it's true. It's exhausted for a reason. So I'd hate it if he genuinely gave it his all, but he just got to a point where he was like, if he was fucked. And Jake Paul, with whatever working neurons, it occurred to him like, oh, okay, if he's not giving me a real challenge, then it's gonna make me look terrible if I fuck him up, right? I think that's why he deliberately, mate. If he stepped on his toe and tried to rouse him, I think it's because he wanted that heat that he said he wanted. Not so it was personal, but he wanted Mike Tyson to be vicious. He didn't want it to be like he's just an old miserable, suffering slowly in the ring, an old man. He probably wanted it to seem like there was some kind of challenge or competition or danger for him. I think he was trying to kind of, maybe he was aware, engaging with Mike Tyson. Maybe he was thinking like, shit, man, this could go south real easy. He's trying to piss him off for that reason, to bring out the beast, whatever's left. And I'd hate if it was real. And now Tyson, like, he probably doesn't give a shit, right? But it's still disrespectful to him to start claiming that it was scripted, that he threw out when, like Occam's razor, right? The simplest explanation to satisfy um, all the conditions of the situation is it should suffice, right? I'd say that the fact that he almost died, he had the sepsis thing, he had the ulcers like 4 or 5 months prior to this fight. 4 years ago, he was in perfect fight, pretty good fighting condition for his age, right? And then 4 years later, only 4 or 5 months after almost dying, having half the blood leave his body and losing 25 limbs or so, I'd say that there could be other reasons that just as well explain why Tyson didn't really perform to the standard people had hoped. And while that can be disappointing, what's really kind of I'm just going to cut to the chase. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. I'm not even an influencer. Like I influence people. I've influenced a lot of people in my life, but not to enough degree to say I'm an influencer. I don't have to pay for some subscribers and followers and build myself. However, artificially, for me to authentically say that I am influencer, right? Just like Jake Paul, in essence, kind of did the same thing. Being a content creator, he's like the epitome, the role model of the influencers of this new era that we're living in now, of style over substance, of mask over the face, where your mask is more important than your face, where the presentation of everything is more important than presence of just being present. Presentation conquers presence. The simulation is more tantalizing than reality, where the narrative and the commentary overpowers the true events and facts. And we learned that back just a couple of years ago, didn't we? That's all about the narrative. It's all about the spin. And people will settle for a convenient lie, right? Than for an inconvenient truth. They won't even listen and allow their minds to exercise and imagine anything that's too uncomfortable. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this whole entire thing. And like I said, Jake Paul, what's happened here? It gives us cause to reflect. I mean, in the same way that you pay to boost your Instagram account or YouTube or whatever, superficially and artificially by buying subscribers and followers, essentially, it doesn't matter which way you cut this, right? I stand by this. Whether he paid Mike Tyson and gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, and despite his health and almost dying just months ago, like it doesn't matter. Offer he couldn't refuse, right? Some people were saying that he was in a bankruptcy or he wasn't doing too well off not too long ago. So I don't know what the situation is there. But whether he bought him out, whether he threw the fight for the money, right? Or whether he bought him out and he didn't throw the fight and it was just he was fucking sick and he shouldn't have been in that ring. Whatever the situation is, here is a boy, man. Here's a beta male, right? In Jake Paul, a little boy kind of looking up to a god, saying, "Please, sir, can you give me your wings? How will $1 million do you? No, that's not enough to let me win, or that's not enough to throw your health into the back seat and fight little or me. How's 5 million? How's 10? How's 20 million? Is that an offer you can't refuse? Deal, right? And now we're seeing what happens when you fly too close to the sun, aren't we, Jake Paul? Yeah, backlash has only just begun. But that's the thing. He thought he could buy glory just in the same way that a content creator, which he is in this new age of style over substance, believes that you can buy a following. He believes that enticing someone into that position where they're not fit to fight and then defeating them constitutes a victory, that he can hold a title high and say, I defeated Mike Tyson. And he said that was his destiny. And now he's fulfilled his destiny. And now he can say he defeated Mike Tyson, but it's hollow. It's a hollow claim. It's empty. Because he bought the man out. He wasn't fit to be in that ring any way he cut it, whether he threw the fight or not. If he threw the fight, it's worse. If he didn't throw the fight, it's still pretty bad. He shouldn't have even been there. And obviously, he was offered so much money, he could not refuse. And it's that mentality that with enough money, you can buy a followership, you can buy glory. I see a golden statue of Jake Paul, massive, shiny, resplendent, and and he's just sitting there at the bottom like a little child holding his knees, desperately insecure, seeking that validation. Am I the champ? I'm the champ. I beat Mike Tyson, right? I see a beta male hugging his knees, in front of that big golden statue of a glorious man. He thought he could buy glory, just like he could buy followers for his YouTube thing. And that's the kind of the world that we're living in. I think it's really, it's giving cause to reflect on not just the man, Jake Paul, but also society. Like, I've talked already about how everyone was booing during the match, and I thought, regardless, you have a legend in here, and you have this guy that's been around making boxing what it is, and he's showing up. Like, he's been working his ass off, conditioning, and you're booing him because what? There's not enough action for you, not enough bloodthirsty spectacle. Like, in all reality, given Mike Tyson and the ordeal he faced recently and his age, that was the best possible outcome, as some people are saying. Like, no, I did wrestling myself, professional wrestling, and I was a hardcore wrestler, so I had multiple concussions and some injuries, and even I can tell you, just doing it for a year, like the last time I did it was like one solid year. I had a long break and I went back to it, but just those few concussions I had affect me to this day. Affects your behavior, in a number of different ways. I won't go into it, but you have boxers who've been doing this for a while, and when you're at that age, when you're younger, like 20, 30, maybe you can take a blow to the head. But when you're, 58 years old, and even a body shot can do a lot of damage. And considering his condition just months prior, so, I would have just been happy to see that Mike Tyson was there. The fact that, the way he started off the fight in the first round, second round was pretty phenomenal. Like, I sat up in my seat. I was sitting right here against the corner, relaxed, watching the other ones. And then as soon as he started, it took me by surprise. I'm like, holy fuck, this guy moves fast. Still, right? So I'm taking that part. If I want action and I want to see that old Tyson, I saw it. But I'm seeing it. I've got to keep in mind the context that this is the older Tyson who has just been debilitated and almost died with half of his blood drained, losing all those pounds. So, I was impressed by those first couple of rounds. I think the first few hits kind of messed him up. I don't think he necessarily threw the fight. I think Jake was aware that he was impacted. He probably noticed like the leg thing, the fact that like this guy almost appears somewhat debilitated. And what would it make Jake look like if he just knocked out a legend? You know what I mean? And debilitates him. And I don't know if it was compassion as much as being aware that this guy is an icon of boxing and shifting it in this new direction that I guess Jake Paul is shifting it in. To do so in a way that ultimately slaps in the face of the old era of Mike Tyson representing that previous era when he's debilitated and then knocking him out and going to town. I think without compassion, even from like a marketing and branding perspective, I think you would have the better sense to be like, okay, that could have serious repercussions, not just for me, but for my brand, for all the stuff that I'm marketing and selling and all the different projects, people that are investing in me. Okay, I mean, yeah, to a degree, it's like there's no such thing as bad publicity, especially in this day and age. The more you get people divided and angry about something, the more power to you. But at the same token, there's a line. Like we all saw what happened with Vince McMahon when he crossed the line, certain lines, and it got to a point where it was so shameful that nobody wanted to be seen associated, and he was just ejected from the company that he really elevated over the previous 30, 40, or whatever years he dedicated, right? So I think from that marketing branding standpoint, like he was wise to be like switch his tone, like, "Ooh, respect, respect." Which Logan kind of fucked up a bit at the end there when he's like, "I'll kill you." It's like, dude, God, you guys are such punks. You're such young, clueless fucking punks, like fucking beta males overcompensating. And that's the thing. People think that an alpha male means physical staunch and being able to physically dominate. The thing is, the most violent people in the world who are really physically like to physically overpower and intimidate and control, like coerce physically and hurt other people and maim them, they're actually generally the weakest people. Like when spiritually speaking, but even putting that hoo-ha aside, like emotionally and mentally quite mentally lame, like limited and hindered in development, emotionally lame and limited and hindered in development, quite immature. I've met a lot of angry people and they're compensating because really they're lacking something. Like I said, I see Jake Paul. He calls himself the problem child, right? I'm sure that that's there for a reason. You know what I mean? Like he's probably like he says, and he also he kind of wears it like a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I'm good at pissing people off, and it's like, well, I'm surely when you started getting those reactions from people, you didn't feel too great about it, right? But sometimes people build a shield. Like I was gothic for a phase. I'll never say I was a gothic because I don't believe you can be a fucking anything. You could say you are gothic. I am of this essence. I am essence. This. I am a goth makes it sound like I'm part of a cult, and I'm a part of something that has many parts, and I represent that. Like I never represented the gothic culture. I'm not a goth. I was just gothic, just like I was morose. I had an appreciation for the darkness and the suffering in life, and was able to see the light in it, the positives in it, and had a bit of an affinity that I developed with it, and like to represent that for that time. So that's what it was about for me. But the point is that I used to get teased quite a bit in high school. I used to be called, squatting dog. I was weird. I was a weird kid. I'd be like squatting on tables in the rain and shit. Um, and just I think it's like the ADHD and maybe some Asperger's. I'm not entirely sure. I meet the criteria, but I've got my own views on what Asperger's syndrome actually is compared to like neurotypicals, and then like the smaller percentage of neurodivergent. Personally, I think the whole thing's kind of switched around, and the neurotypicals are anxiety ridden. I'm not even going to go into it. I'm not even going to go into that. It's another talk. But for whatever reason, like I just saw the kids at school. I saw the kids in the back of the bus talking shit about each other and gossiping, and I was always like, I want to be one of those people. I want to be in the back with the cool kids talking shit. But I'm like, but I see what they're doing. And it's just ego, and they're building themselves up at other people's expense, and that's so it made it hard to click with people. And I guess it's probably because, my dad left when I was 5, came back when I was 11. I moved in with him. He was a psychologist. So I started reading his textbooks, became aware of self monitoring, and how, that's having this awareness of yourself, especially in like social situations. Became aware of basic psychology and ego and id and all this. And this is at the age of like 14, 13, 14 years old, 15. So who's that? I'm getting all these messages coming up. So I learned all that stuff too soon, I think, and I saw these mechanisms playing out in children's behaviors in high school, and it was so hard to get too close. I had friends outside of high school. Inside, it was a different dynamic. I was more of a wanderer, the wandering goth. And the point is, I think I became goth because for a while I would be teased as like just as being weird. Like that used to be my sensitive hot button for a while was people calling me weird. um, Fast forward 4 years later, I'm at the Fun Factory where they got all these obstacle courses. It's a place that used to be for kids, like big jungle gym, 3 stories high, ball pits, everything. And they had a rave there. And I remember at one point I was sitting in the ball pit, and there was a girl there, and she's pashing me and pashing a guy and all this crazy stuff. And just wild, loose times, right? I had some loose years and went to a party afterwards. I was getting on with everyone, went out, got heaps of candy and stuff for everyone, chucking candy everywhere. And then the guy that owns the house comes home, and he's obviously some beta fucking bitch, but acting like an alpha male, and be like, "Oh, you got to leave," because he's saying that I'm getting on really well with these girls and guys and everyone there, and I'm creating a vibe. Not just me, but I'm like, I guess maybe he felt threatened. I don't fucking know. He's like, "You got to leave." I'm like, "Why? Why?" He's just like pulling me out to the front door. I've done nothing wrong, right? I'm just chilling. And he's like, "Cause you're fucking weird, man." I'm like, "Mm." And he slams the door in my face, and that did something. Like after that, like that embedded that word weird. And every time I'd hear it, it would trigger something. It would take me back to that space of like absolute rejection, you know? And this is after the whole gothic thing, but like I said, I'd been weird, I guess. Like in primary school, I had a lot of friends, but that's once again, I was a performer. I was always performing for validation, like running and slamming my head on doors and running and jumping down big flights of stairs and doing games where people control my behavior with a imaginary remote control and fast forward and shit, say a number and I assume a different role. I like to perform and I like physicality, hence I liked wrestling, right? But I don't like violence really, but I can appreciate watching it. Just not really my jam. And the point is that I took that weirdness and I turned it into my strong suit. And now it's not the day and age to make this observation, but back then I would say that, you notice there's a lot of like fat chicks that become goth. And I think it's a way that so when people say, "Oh, you fucking fat bitch," and whatever, something like that, which is horrible, right? That they could just say, "Oh, you're only saying that because I'm gothic. You're only saying that because I'm goth." And for me, it was similar. Like, if people called me a freak or weird, it's because, yeah, well, that's what I'm going for. And it became like Batman, right? Like, you fear the bat, you have this traumatic experience, and then you take it upon yourself. Kind of like you take transmogrification. I don't know if that's the right term. You become the bat. You become the weirdness that people have been calling you out for. And I did that for some time. I did that for a few years, and I always had the red eye contact and the half long blonde and half short brown and half shaved. It was awesome. Did it for a few years. That was a lot of fun. It was quite a process as well, in a spiritual sense, and what that whole thing represented for me. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that Jake Paul, problem child. I get it. I get it. Like, you take these things, that you're insecure about, and you kind of brand yourself, you incorporate it into your branding, and use it to kind of strengthen yourself and embolden yourself. Um, but I think like a lot of people, it's funny. It's like I think that's, but I'm a big believer in like social engineering and there being like powers at play, who are very much aware of how humans work. And I'm aware of this because, like, we all know that Rockefellers are the ones that founded the whole beginnings of psychology and the study of humans and how we operate, some pretty extensive and ethically questionable tests not too long ago, like just like 100 years ago, right? Um, and then propaganda was created out of the result of all that. The term conspiracy theorists followed not too further after. But I'm aware that there's certain people in control, right? And this is the thing you're gonna ask, right? Like, whatever version of history you believe, whether you think that everything beyond 176 years ago was a lie, what, and Tartaria, right? Or maybe it's longer than that. Maybe everything more than 300 years ago is a lie, or 600, or 1,000 years. Who knows, right? Whether you believe that Rome and Greece and all these different places around the world actually existed, or they didn't, and that's a story. It doesn't really matter what you believe. For what I'm saying, um, what am I saying? I'm saying something pretty. To me, it's relevant. I'll just start anywhere and it'll come back. That's what you do when you forget. You don't force yourself to remember. It's like when you lose your keys and you don't remember. You can try and try. It's the moment you shut the door. That's when you remember. Because it's like when you're editing a clip. If you're editing a clip and you're dragging out the end of it and you forget what the clip is because, I don't know, you can't see the image on it anymore, sometimes the only way to remember is to step back, to let go of it and step back. And then you see the whole thing again from beginning to end. And you go, oh, that's the clip. You know what I mean? So now that I've done that, I've just done that explaining that. I've just taken my step back. Let's see if my mind, my brain can just zoom right back in. So I'm talking about history. I'm talking about control of information. I'm talking about social engineering, aren't I? And whatever version you believe. But at the end of the day, whoever was in control and in power from whatever time period and whatever culture actually fucking existed at any point, the question is like, do people just surrender their power? Do people just give their power away to the few at the top? If they were, assuming that there were people at the top at some point in history, do they ever just give their power away? Like, at which point in history did the masters and the slaves stop having that relationship? At which point in history did we stop having a master-slave relationship? It's an important question. Logic to me dictates that the kind of people that initially barbarically took the land and took the people and enslaved them, I probably wouldn't be of the thinking to want to just give the power back to the people and invite them to the tables in their luxuriant places and be like, you're one of us now. That defies my logic. Their children maybe, but then their children generally they're like in a totally different world, a class of their own. and very much raised under that influence and guidance of that family, especially when it comes to the most influential people. Um, you know, thing of like your father was a doctor, so you must be a doctor, that kind of thing. It's just you're naturally bred for it, for those various roles you're going to take. So at what point it was not just, and it's not just one person that needs to change. Like, you know what? I had some mushrooms the other day, and it's wrong what we're doing to people, and we should just give everyone their power and have equal footing, and everyone has equal liberties, and everything's fair and righteous and based on natural law. Like, you need more than one fucking person to have that kind of revelation. At which point did a whole group of people around the world shift from a slave master dynamic? Moving forward, I personally think it's logical to assume that there are those in power who intend to keep it, who always have intended to keep it, who at no point in time that I can find had such a drastic shift of principal foundations that have underlined all their legacy and the actions of their legacy, that they're a legacy of, so their ancestors. All right. And I haven't seen any point in history where been some big shift that changes the direction of their legacy. So if they're in control, I'm just trying to just acknowledge that, I think there's good reason to assume that there's social engineering and they are aware, whoever's in control of this, whoever's getting the data and getting the outputs from this masterful AI that connects everything, all the information, even in hindsight from videos before AI existed. Now you go on YouTube, videos I made 15 years ago, and I see everything's been converted into text. You can look at the actual subtitles and see what you've written, what you've said. So they have access to all this information of every word spoken, and probably also for audio too. I wouldn't be surprised online since whenever, right? It's a lot of information for some masterful AI that we think we have an awareness of, like the new ChatGPT coming up. But I guarantee it probably, for all we know, at the beginning of this, there was already a supreme AI at the beginning of all this. Who fucking knows, right? But the point is, they got information, they got ways of using that information to make very informed decisions about how to manage the lives, human lives, livestock, human civilization. Okay. And to me, I think this whole entire move of moving away from substance to style is very much on purpose. Moving into a world of social media where it's not about the influence we have as people in a meaningful way. It's about being an influencer online and marketing and selling. It's about appearance. It's about style. It's about, it's not about truth. Truth is malleable when you start looking at online creation. Moments aren't just authentic moments that you live anymore. Moments become monetized. You have these people that go out all these places showing their vacations and editing everything. And it's like, it's all about monetization. And are they actually there enjoying their time out and living in those places, or is it just now a routine and ritual as part of their job, which is still cool? It's still great that you get to move around and all of that, but I just hope those people make time to be like real human beings and live a real human experience. um and yeah, I think this whole social engineering thing, I think it's on purpose that now, like with Mike Tyson, we're seeing this move towards treating people something less than sacred and worthy of dignity and respect, undeniably. And we saw that in the last few years of COVID, how easily basic essential liberties and rights can just be revoked. And all of the people in the world, it's already socially primed, can be triggered to fucking gang up on and laugh and coerce those people and them out and reject them, right? And judge them, because those people have become a product of propaganda, a product of the system, and in various ways. Um, and they treat people like products. Like Mike Tyson's been treated like a product. You know what I mean? In this whole entire spectacle, um, from how Jake Paul exploited him. Making, I'm sure, to me it feels like he made an offer that Tyson couldn't refuse, and I think it would have been better for Tyson to wait for longer. And I don't know if that was an option. Um, and the way people are, bullying the situation and talking shit about it, and It's like this is an actual human being, and he got the best outcome. He maintained his health. He got a good payday. I think he showed up and tried personally, and I think his health wasn't good enough to justify him being there. But people are still just treating it like a product, and they're disappointed with the product because it did not satisfy, it did not entertain, and so they're willing to this icon say things like, "Oh, he threw in, oh, how lousy." You know what I mean? I've lost so much respect. And it's like, dude, your respect means shit if you're so ready to drop these kind of bombs on somebody who, at the very least, is a very decent, authentic human being. And he himself said in the ring, "Oh, I don't do it for the fans, I do it for me." And that isn't the point of what I'm getting at, but it's close to it. The whole doing it for me, I wouldn't get behind as like I wouldn't put that on a poster because that's very Luciferianistic, isn't it? Sorry, not Luciferianistic. What I meant to say was that's very New Age, isn't it? The whole entire do what thou will. Live in your truth. Do what serves you. If there's anything negative in the world outside of yourself, you don't have to be part of that. You don't have to acknowledge it. You can just push that out of your periphery. You don't have to engage. Protect your energy. Your energy is sacred. You're worth protecting your energy in your little fucking truth bubble of convenience. And anything that's inconvenient, if you have a relationship with somebody that has some inconvenient moments, where somebody is in hardship or strife or in a bitter patch of life, and it's a bit too dark and heavy for you, you don't have to help. The light thing to do, following the light, is to do your best to protect your light and avoid the dark. And to me, that's a bunch of fucking baloney. Like, personally, I think we all have like a little inner candle that we're all born with, and it glows very bright. And as we get older, instead of being this open expanse, just connected with one or whatever, right, and the light's shining through us as children, we learn through schooling and indoctrination and general conditioning to start compartmentalizing ourselves and kind of like a cell dividing. It's kind of like that, but on the next like on the next level, psychologically, emotionally, this developing an idea of self and identity and individual rating. So we like the cells are in dividing, dualistically dividing, and then dividing. And we get so compartmentalized. We have this little candle that's locked away in this maze. And I think some people, whether through trauma or just they've experienced things that are too hard to process, the system doesn't accommodate well enough. People haven't been taught to care. If anything, we're on this anti-hero movement where heroes and virtue is like old hat, where it's actually punishable in some places to feed the fucking homeless and to be nurturing and compassionate. And it's actually a lot cooler. And this is what I see being taught when I observe, I don't know, everything, all kinds of media, music, film, games. I see a movement towards not just stoicism, but just not caring, being impervious, not being affected, not being empathic or empathetic towards people. And it's like what they say at like Bohemian Grove, right? Dull care. It's all about like removing that ever so dull care. It's dull because if I got my information right, those that attend those little gatherings there in the Bohemian Grove, they're very big on logic, very big on science. It's like, but think biohazard, which is interesting when you look at COVID and biohazard and all that and the splices, and you look at the symbolism in that game and what they're talking about, the great chain of progress and not wanting to be burdened by religion and ethics, but just letting science unbridled have its day so they can become gods, right? Um, oh fuck, my mind just went down the biohazard track. I know. I'm like, where was I? 'Cause that's such a fucking place, isn't it? That's a magical place. Fuck, where was I going? I should be making little dot points as I'm saying all this stuff. I'm just gonna step back again and start from wherever, and I'll go right back to it. But yeah, I think we're at this point. Oh fuck. Doesn't anyone remember what I was just talking about before the biohazard remark? Um, starting going back to the core point. It's surface over substance. It's legacies being traded for likes with the whole fucking Tyson thing. Like it's less about the meaning of the past, and it's more just about sacrificing whatever sacredness of the past in order just to be liked right now. It's this sick desperation to fill a void because we are disconnected from ourselves, looking at ourselves, evaluating our value through the eyes of other people. And this is when you have sickness and ailment and corruption and toxicity and insanity and violence in different forms begin to really brew into something gnarly. When you start looking at yourself from the outside in, I used to have this saying back when I thought it was cute to say it, which I don't anymore, but I'll say it again anyway. There's a difference, man, between cool cats and cruel cats. And a cool cat is somebody that realizes that yes, we are puppets on a stage, and yes, I wear a mask. It's my ID, my identity, and it's what people know me as a character on the stage. That's all very good and well, but I'm aware that I am the one wearing the mask. That I am the one wearing the mask, right? And then there's the cruel cat, spelled with a K, because I thought that was cool at the time. Cruel cats, which are those that believe that the mask is them. That's everything there is, regards their existence, just a mask, nothing more. And what they are and all of their value is tied in directly and unequivocally, 100% dependently on other people's view of them, other people's evaluation. For a long time, I spoke about that in the context of how women have been developed and conditioned to view their value based on how other people perceive them. And that created this kind of detached from spirit, detached from truly being in one's authenticity and spirit, that fire, that candle, which gets locked up in this maze of all these different rooms as we become convoluted beings through individualization over and over and over and these traumas that end up locking certain doors and we get fragmented and we don't have enough support, we don't have enough help, we aren't shown how to love and use compassion with the self because nobody really held us enough in that space because the whole world has been geared towards doing the opposite and teaching us the opposite and giving us completely the opposite. And so we can't connect with that spirit. We can't connect with that authenticity, that candle. And that's what I was going to say before. I'm the kind of person, if I see someone in the dark, I like to use my light to help light their candle, to help them find the light within themselves and then let them go on their merry way. But I'm never going to overextend myself so much for someone that it's not helping them and they don't want to be helped. And then I'm at risk of snuffing my candle. Yeah, that's when I step back. That's when it's healthy and you don't need to feel guilty. And that's when I say, you don't have to engage with it if it's dark, but I'm not going to do the whole Luciferian slash New Age thing and promote separatism and division and individual, in ego and living in your own little truth bubble and ignoring anything that doesn't feel pleasant, ignoring and evading anything that isn't hedonistically satisfying, because I think that's really childish and unenlightened. But hey, what do I know? I was only part of the New Age community for over a good decade before I realized that holy shit, everyone enjoys smelling each other's farts way too much here. Um, but I digress. So that's how I like to with my inner light, and I think I used to talk about how women were raised like that to view themselves through the eyes of others. They didn't have that connection. Maybe that's why some people say women don't have a soul. I don't believe it. I think that's bullshit. But maybe what they were hinting at is that they're more disconnected, and for at certain times, not all women, okay. I'm just talking about the successfully conditioned woman, the product of the system, like the Mrs. Jones of the system, right? Or somebody that's not too far removed, somebody that's not completely, like, to me, it's like you're either conservative or you're an alternative. That's my world. All right, you're conserving the way the status quo is, and you're part of it, a cog in the system, whatever. Um, or you're outside of it, and you call shit for what it is, and you live in your authenticity. You don't compromise on your truth, on your ethics for no one. You didn't say yes a few years ago, even if it cost you everything except your health and your family's health, because that's priority, and you prioritize that. That's all I see. I see those lost to other people's narrative and who've conditioned them to view their value based on how they've been taught that they are valuable, if they adhere to these systems, if they get the job, if they are politically correct, if they behave like this, if they get enough likes and whatever, and they get caught up in that game, and that's how they find purpose and value and their function, right? Because they think that they are the mask, like they're purely the mask. And then those that realize it's puppets on the stage and they see everyone taking themselves way too seriously. They see people traveling around and not enjoying themselves, and it's more about how things appear. People luring in, sick, elderly human beings with a great, legacy behind, a history behind them, legends, in order to essentially buy some more followers, to buy themselves the title of glory. Um, and it's at the point where it's like, even like, and this is how you know humanity is no longer human. This is how you know we're no longer human. A large portion of us, besides the fact that we're technically mutants and modificated. What do you call it? That that thing that we own because we're technically modified organisms. But whatever. We're not going to get into that. But a lot of information is coming out now, isn't it? A lot of those purple borders. I'm saying from people who not too long ago were absolutely shitting on and cutting ties with and just being very rude, very nasty, saying some nasty things to the anti-vaxxers, and now they're like, "Oh, I made a mistake. Yeah, I was wrong. We're all good, right? I'm sorry. I was a bit rude before. I'm sorry. I said your children should be taken away from you and you should be allowed to die in hospital. I was just I had no choice but to say those things." You can't say that. And you also had a choice to take the fucking thing, It was such a cop out. But I've already done a video on that. I've already talked about all of that. But what that did teach us, the same thing that this whole Tyson and Paul thing has taught us, is to, not get so caught up in the narrative, not get so caught up. And, it's like people had this idea based on the narrative of Tyson versus Paul and the hype and their expectations. And then what the reality is that we saw a legendary icon enter a space and leave $20 million richer, who copped a bit of a blow, but for the most part kept his health intact, a lot more than he would have if he actually got if Paul went to town on him. And we still got to see him for a couple of rounds, like show his stuff, and it was awesome. And we got to see him blocking most of the stuff, and I actually thought it was really great. Like he could defend himself a lot better than I can at my age against that kind of offense, right? But people are so caught up living in looking from the outside in, even at their own expectations. Like that's the reality. It's not about Mike Tyson, the human being, the legend, the icon, overcoming the adversity and his hardship of his fucking almost dying 4 or 5 months prior and showing up after and trying and doing pretty good with defense and pretty great with offense. Like it was fun to watch for a good round or two. It's not about that. It's about our expectations, and then people will start experiencing whatever because of that. And the same thing happened with COVID. It's all about expectations with COVID. Um, what people expect in that case to be the reality. Um, what they expect of each other, and it's not about truth. It's not about facts. It's not about what actually is or isn't. It's not about the fact that they developed the PCR tests before they even had any materials of the supposed COVID-19. So how the fuck can these things accurately diagnose something that didn't even fucking exist when it was made? Doesn't matter about facts. Doesn't matter about reason. You know why I'm wearing this shirt? By the way, it's a bit of a funny one. Part of me was like, I shouldn't wear it because, it's a superficial world. People are all about the style. And I might get someone that's an older generation and see me wearing this and be like, oh, one of these kind of gangster types wearing a beanie and like this fucking thing. And this kind of balances it out a bit. A bit of a strategic choice I made there because I'm aware of how my appearance makes people think and what they might think about me. And that's important to me. It's so important to me. It's so fucking important to me. So I put on the jacket because otherwise people might not care about what I'm saying because of what I'm wearing, because of the clothes I'm wearing. That might like what I'm saying might be more meaningless because of how my surface appears. So I made the decision to put this on, but I wore this because this is actually I think I bought this when I was 14 years old. I wore it when I was 15 once. I was drinking a bottle of Strongbow cider with my brother and my sister and our rockabilly kind of friend named Rocker, just at the Galleria actually in Perth, Western Australia. And we're just at the bottle shop on the side drinking the ciders. I know I was 15, I shouldn't have been, but whatever. And this car goes past, and there's a group of young guys and like three men, and they start shouting at us some shit like, okay, and they drive off and start going around the bottle shop. So me and my brother, my sister, and Rocker are like, let's get out of here. We start walking. The car comes back around, starts following us, and then starts revving up and actually accelerating at us, right? And this is while I'm wearing the shirt, and I'm like 15. So me and my brother kind of split off from Rocker and my sister, who were fucking at the time, and they go that way, and hide behind a bush apparently. I found out later. And me and my brother run. We go all the way down across the road, running, running, running. And then we turn right. There's like shops and stuff, and then there's like a little driveway. And there's once you're in the driveway, there's no fucking doors. There's no way out. And we turn, and we're in there, and we realize there's no way out. And then we see the light beams of the car coming up, and we're just praying that they keep on going. And they slow down, and then they turn into the driveway. And that was terrifying. We're like, fuck. These guys come out. Two guys came out. And like, give us your wallet, give us your wallet, give us your phone. Like, I don't have a phone, mate. I don't fucking have a phone. I was telling the truth. I didn't have a phone. Gave him my wallet. I was like, oh, can I just play? Sorry, Mr. Thief. Can I please have the picture of my girlfriend? You don't really need that. Can I? She was my first girlfriend at the time. So she's like, yeah, fucking whatever. Gave me the picture. And basically after that he kept asking me for my phone. I was like, mate, look, I don't fucking have one, eh? He's like, and he had a knife, which I learned later that my brother had. And my brother, he's older than me. Like when I was 15 then, he would have been like 28 or something. And he's an interesting type. He's got his own issues, very fearful and anxiety ridden person. Never leaves the house, always worried that something will happen. A bit of a magnet for that kind of thing. I do believe if you walk around like the prey, expecting to be preyed upon, you're going to attract the predator or bring out the predator in people. I do believe that there's like a dynamic energy thing. So, he had a knife on him. I don't know why. Now, then would have been a good time to fucking use it, even just to like, not to hurt anyone, but just to scare them off, go fuck off. But anyway, this guy opened up my brother's jacket and pulled out the knife that my brother was holding on his person. He let this guy take his knife in this situation where offense is happening and the guy that could be defending takes it and then comes at me, and he's the one asking me for the mobile because I've already given this other cocksucker my wallet, and he's like gonna stab me because he's angry at me, and in hindsight I think they were cooked. I think they were fucking like on meth, right? And I sidestepped it and didn't get stabbed, and I threw the bottle as hard as I could, and it went and hit the guy. Didn't see, but I heard it. I turn around and run, and I'm always been like a suit guy before I got fat. I've always been a suit guy, more of like a three-piece suit. I really think there's something about the waistcoat and the pants, the suit pants. And if I had it my way, I always fantasized of having like a violet velvet suit, like deep purple violet suit with like hot pink lining and shit, and like maroon gloves and shoes and shit like this, but whatever. But yeah, I was wearing suit shoes and no grip whatsoever, and it's slippery as fuck. It's just like shiny wood, smooth wood under my foot, and I'm running on gravel and shit, and this guy's chasing after me, and I'm running and running, and then I see a car parked, and I hop in the car. The guy's like, "Are you all right, man? Come in, come hop in." I'm like, "Dude, can we just drive?" There's a fucking guy. He drives off. He drives back to the Galleria. He goes back to where kind of we started, and we're sitting there. I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, just wait, just wait. I'm like, and then a moment later, I see two men running towards the car, and they hop in the car, and it's fucking them. Like this guy, the stranger that I got in the car with, was part of the three-person crew originally. It was the driver. Must have had two cars. I don't fucking know what happened there. But anyway, um, And he's like, "You know who this cunt is?" And I'm in the back. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm the same cunt you just tried to stab, but I don't want no trouble." They end up letting me go and asking me for my name. I said, "Oh, my name's." I had to come up with a fake name. I was like, "My name's J Mac," which is similar to my real name, stupidly. "My name's J Mac." He's like, "Well, if you tell anyone about this, you're fucking dead." I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, all right." And hey, I've been telling this story for a while. I'm still alive. There's another thing, expectations not being met. They expected I'd die for telling it, and I'm still kicking. So there you go, like living. There goes living in one's little truth, right? The point is, I'm wearing it now because it's 20 years old. I'm 36. It's 21 years old. I think I bought it when I was 14, 13. That's when I had my like School of Hard Knocks and Rough Riders and Wu Tang phase, just the clothes, because I had no fashion sense. I was a guy with a bowl cut and a Planet Hollywood shirt and tight jeans. And I had this Kiwi mate that I made in high school, and he's like, "Man, you got to get some gears." So he took me to Knox, which is a big like factory shop for like way too vibrant, way too colorful, but super conveniently airy and aerated clothing. And I went there with like all of those brands I just said prior, including this. So that would have been when I was 13, 36, or 23 years old. It means something to me. And look at the quality. No fading whatsoever. I mean, it's super. Like this stuff just rips like real easy, right? But this, like, you wouldn't think 23 years old. And the point is that I was aware putting it on might make people think like, oh, he's like, obviously it's better to go safe and wear something like generic and no label and respectable, something that's casual enough, but formal enough so it doesn't matter who's watching, they might listen. And you know what? I just thought, fuck it. Fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. That whole experience doesn't tie in any way that's obvious to me into what I'm talking about here. So whatever. But I just felt like wearing it because I am wearing a jacket. It's a bit hot. It's one of those superficial decisions I'm making that's not really in alignment with my authentic self. I don't feel like wearing the jacket, you know what I mean, or the beanie. But if I take that off, then how I appear is very different. If I take this off, well, I could take it off. I could take it off right now and get comfortable. I'm wearing lady pants. I find lady pants more comfortable. People can judge because ladies should wear lady pants, but I guess these days, conveniently with everything that's going on, now's a good time for anyone to wear anything they want, right? But that's another thing. Like, okay, I've got a list here of different things that the whole style over substance kind of you can really see it in today's world with all of this stuff. But before I go into that, I do want to quickly touch on the whole gender thing. And who's in the room? Has that been the same person that's been watching? I've seen a number one and sometimes two people in the room. Is anyone in the room now? And have you been here for a while? How you going? No one's really said anything. But how's life? And is this like a filter? Can I? Oh, I can change my. Oh, that would have been way better. I like that, but it's just a bit too saturated. I need something that's like that, but like black and white. Oh, that's cool. No, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with that. All right, even though it's way too saturated. Not the biggest fan. So another example of how people are so lost on the surface. So you have these people who are a little bit confused and claiming a man claiming to be a woman claiming to be a man. And then when people say, well, no, biologically, universally, it's understood there's this classification system, all right, that's created in biology and scientifically, and an empirical reference system, right? To whether you're a male or a female, that's just sex. And then these people go and say, oh, but no, but we're talking about gender, not sex. They're different. And to me, my honest opinion is there is no such thing. Like, I get the idea of gender roles, but now you're talking about roles. And there's no point cutting your dick off or, developing some, having a penis attached or whatever have you, um, just because you like to do certain roles more than other roles. Like, what is my genitalia and my ability to reproduce in whatever way? What does that have to do with different roles that aren't related to sex or creating life. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like a role might be like protector, and somebody likes to do something maybe like building. You know, the builder role, the protector role, the provider role, the nurturer role. Like there are some men out in the world who can nurture, and they go into that role of the nurturer, and maybe they're more artistic, and maybe they're the more feminine kind of um, person in the relationship. And you have some women that maybe are more business oriented and more logical, and it's more about bringing home the bread and the money, right? And more practical, and bigger on control, and less vulnerable and less emotional. And so they are kind of like the masculine, right? And it seems we enter this point where it's like people got so confused that they forgot that the words masculine and feminine exist, and for a reason, and they forgot what it actually refers to. Even the words like effeminate, like why not just be able to say, like, I for a long time said I'm a bitch trapped in a bastard's body before all of this shit. I was saying this shit 15 years ago because I've always had more of like a feminine thing internally. Like I'm very masculine, it seems, but I'm a deep feeler. I love fashion, and art, and cleaning and cooking, and house stuff, and always wanted to be a father, which I now am of two, full time. And so nurturer. Now I don't say that. Ever since all this madness, I stay away from that. I'm a fucking man. Even when I say I was a bitch in a man in a bastard's body, I don't expect anyone to call me Mrs. or she, because really, like when I say I'm a woman in a man's body, what I'm talking about is kind of what people are getting at with the idea of gender. But really, what it is like the essence. It's the essence of how I am, and I just have a more feminine essence. That's how I would say it. That if you look at the roles that I occupy in my life, the masculine roles, the feminine roles, and ways of behaving and handling and relating to phenomena and feeling and processing and interpreting, I'd say that now is actually I probably moved more back into masculine. You know what I mean? Like we shift. I got cut off for a second. Why do people have this obsession of having to be absolutely one or the other? Why can't you be both feminine and masculine and have feminine and masculine characteristics? Why can't you just be like a bit of a babe in a monster truck, or a bit of a bulky dude in a pink skyline? Like, what's the problem with that? And being able to interchange through life, kind of like what people do when they call themselves fluid. But it's like, why do you even need to call yourself? Why do you need to like make a concrete noun for it? Like it's a thing. Like I'm a gender fluid. Like, no, you're alive. You're conscious. You feel a pull sometimes towards feeling and thinking and behaving like this, and you feel a pull or a drive sometimes towards feeling and thinking and behaving like that. We attach these ideas, these stereotypes, feminine and masculine, and it almost feels like what's happened is because psychology is the main thing for me, since I was raised with it from like raised in isolation with my mum and 13 cats and my sister up in the hills. um and then my dad comes in, and I move in with him, like comes out of nowhere. And then I'm studying psychology through his books a little bit, got passionate about it, and I've been researching ever since, and observing and thinking about just learning about people, and going introspectively. And oh well, fuck, I get so sidetracked. I really apologize for that. But I'm gonna get to the main argument when it comes to the gender fluid thing. People say, okay, and this is the funniest thing. This is the funniest contradiction. I'm going to finish off my other point first. That there's no such thing as gender. I would say that I had that essence, that I felt driven towards acting like, behaving like this, feeling like this. And you know, I don't need to put myself in a box and define what I am. I like to be open to change. You know what I mean? And fuck, I'm tired. I'm sorry. I'm kind of going off the rails a bit. Um, But yeah, I think yeah, that's right. So what happens to that ability to say I'm a bit of both? Why do we have to be absolutely one or the other and then castrate the other half away? Like why can't we be balanced individuals? Why do we have to be lopsided extremists? absolutely, if you're more feminine, but you have a penis, it's like, oh no, I'm more feminine. I have to cut my penis off. I have to be a man, pure unadulterated male. Why? And vice versa with the feminine. Like, why do you have to 100% this or that? And this is the thing. Some of the people that argue for transgenderism and it should be preached and children should be exposed to it and decide for themselves whether they want to be rendered infertile. That's another way of putting it. But on the surface, they have an outside surface that looks kind of like the gender that they are. Once again, style over substance. It's like, cool. I know I'm not actually a woman. I know I'll lose my ability to create because my only reproductive system that works is the male one. And that's why male, my sex is male because the only way that sex yields fruit and children, offspring through reproduction and sexual intercourse is when I stay what I was born as. If I was born a male, the only way I can have children is if I stayed a man. And if I chop this off and I have hormones and start looking like a woman, then I'm a woman and I insist on being a woman, but I just can't create children like a womb man can because I don't have the womb. I'm still a man, just without a penis who looks like a woman. But appearance is everything, and that's just another angle. You know, Jake Paul feels glorious, and he can say he beat Mike Tyson when he essentially paid the man off um, in a state where he almost pretty much couldn't win, right? So, but it doesn't matter. He can technically say he beat Mike Tyson. A person that looks like a woman can well, they can't even technically say I am a woman. It's an insult to women. It's an insult to men with wombs. To women, mans. It's an insult. To objectify women like that to insinuate and suggest that a woman is a woman because they look like a woman, because they have long hair and breasts and no penis, and because they identify as feeling like a woman, that's what makes them a woman. Like that's pretty. That reduces a person, That's pretty objectifying to women. They're more than just the physical appearance of a woman. And even some women might be out there who say, "Look, I'm an actual woman, but I can't procreate. I'm infertile," and I'd still say, "Well, you're still a woman." But I think when you choose, okay, if that infertility is a result of you choosing to look like a woman when you were born a man and you had a working reproductive system, I'd say that defines what you are. Gender doesn't exist. All there is sex. And we say, "Oh, he went that way," so we fucking know who we're talking about because it's practical. We're talking about the sex. And no one in my whole life, even when I'm on a feminine day, no one has ever, if I've been at a party, they've never been like, "Hey, I'll introduce you to my mate, to my friend. Oh, this guy's awesome." Like, "Hey, I'm not a guy. I'm more than a guy. It's like, well, even if I thought I was a girl, why am I mistaking who I am for my sex? You're saying he means man. You're talking about my sex. You're not talking about my character. You're not talking about my personality. You're not talking about the roles that I occupy. You're not talking about my behavior. You're not talking about my things I follow and believe in, my ideologies, my commitments. You know what I mean? What I subscribe to. You're saying he, you're referring to my fucking sex. Why do people need to pretend and try to forge a case that is referring to something else other than he, for him, for male, born with a male reproductive system, capable of creating life, unless they're infertile. But you know what I mean? Like that's what it fucking means. And the same people that argue for that shit, like no, 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 no. It's still, if they identify as women, they're a woman. If they cut it off, they're a woman. It's like bit fucking shallow, bit living on the surface, style over substance again, really. Because not too long ago, a lot of the same people, when we were fighting for gay rights, like gay marriage rights and the ability to marry whoever you want, even if it's the same gender. Why? Because the argument at the time was that love transcends physicality, that it doesn't matter about what's between your legs, it doesn't matter about whether it's a penis or a vagina, whether it's like this or this, or whatever the fuck, or this. It doesn't matter, right? Love transcends it. You know, we shouldn't have to obey such a crude system that identifies who can marry who based on genitals. Love transcends our genitalia. But who we are, like who I am, like who I fucking am as a fucking person, as a fucking personality, identity, character, does not. It does not transcend my physicality. It does not transcend my genitals. Who I am is defined by a gender, which is pretty much the same as my sex. Therefore, my sex defines who I am. Sex doesn't define who we should love or can love and marry, because love transcends that. And that's the crazy thing. It's like you think that who you are in your identity, right? And especially if you go spiritual with it, like you think that who and what you are as a whole, right? Even internally, not just physically, internally too. If you know, if you're capable of knowing what I'm talking about when I say not just physically and appearance, that there's more to you than what you appear to be like in some kind of remotely resembling fashion. There's more to you than that. If you know what I'm talking about, it's crazy to me. What was it? What was it just fucking saying? The whole thing's crazy to me. I'll just skip to the next point because it's blurring the lines between spirit and flesh. All right, people get so caught up thinking that who they are, is based on how they appear. Right? That love and who you're going to marry doesn't matter. That's fine. Like, you know, that shouldn't be dependent on how you look. Love transcends it. That's what I was saying. But who you are, it doesn't. Like to me, who you are beyond your appearance is way vaster in scope. Is way more unfathomable and way more profound and basal, right? Like foundational than who we love. Like who we love and how we love, I'd say is in very much large part dependent on entirely on who we are and how we are as individuals. Unless you're preaching a codependency doctrine in which my love and my right to marry anyone, regardless of genitalia, it transcends our genitalia. Our physical form does not dictate in the arena of love. But who I am independently, just by myself, yeah, I'm kind of defined by my genitals. I mean, that's I don't get it. It's backwards to me. It's like saying like your ability to rely on someone. It's a codependency thing. I'm not going to explain why, but I just see it as codependence. So that doesn't make sense to me at all. I don't believe in gender. I think what there is sex, and I think certain sexes, generally speaking, universally gravitate towards certain roles. I think that's part of what people confuse as being gender, and chuck in the ingredients also of conditioning with movies and magazines and books, of different stereotypes of the masculine and feminine. And like part of me thinks that that's part of the strategy of like social engineering and social conditioning is to create like this purely black and white, dichotomized, absolutist extremes of man and woman, masculine, feminine, right? And instead of being like, it's okay, like now we're moving into an age, we not too long ago, we went through that interim phase before we started flipping it to the opposite extreme. And that's what I think the device is. That's what I think the purpose is. It's like catching someone smoking and then forcing them to smoke a whole packet of cigarettes to the point where like, yeah, no, I don't want to smoke again. It's like giving people what they want, but to such an overly exaggerated and an absolutist and toxic extreme, an absurd extreme that people reject it and then want to gravitate back to the old way of doing things. You know what I mean? I suspected the same thing was happening with petrol for a while there. And that's why they made it, obviously, I saw so many memes going around about Tesla cars and these electric cars. And it was almost like, I got the feeling of like shrill work, like the amount of memes being pumped out. You can start to see when it happens in waves, and there's a lot of different names, but you see similarities in what's being put out, what's being written, and you're like, you get a feeling that there's some kind of orchestrated or concentrated effort to put out this message and kind of influence people and guide people a bit. And there was a lot of stuff really throwing shade on electric cars and talking about returning to petrol. And part of me thought was, well, maybe that's why Elon Musk bought out Tesla, that took over that business. And people complained that originally were that had the vision of what they wanted to create with the cars, and they reckon he kind of nosedived it into the ground. Didn't use got lots of funding and didn't use it the way he said he was going to use it for that purpose. I think he maybe used it for other projects. And yeah, I don't know what the whole deal was there, but part of me thought like maybe it's like that movie Cars, I think Cars 2, where you find out like all these, spoiler alert, all these cars on the racetracks, like there's somebody that shoots with some kind of weapon and it causes the car to break down, to explode, and they're trying to blame someone's trying to blame it on the petrol, some kind of new clean petrol technology. And it's not that, it's somebody deliberately setting it up to look like that's it, but it's something else that's causing the accidents. And you realize that the person who's behind it, the whole plot, the person that's deliberately trying to make this new clean petrol look bad, is actually the guy that's um selling the new clean petrol, who's actually behind it and owns the whole thing, right? And he's doing it deliberately so that people move back towards, I think, buying normal petrol, right? And I think he's going to make a profit somehow. It's lucrative to him to manipulate people back into the old way. And part of me thought, oh, I wonder if that's like a bit of predictive P, you know what I mean? With Tesla and what's happening, and deliberately hyping it up and then deliberately anti-hyping it so that people then kind of rebound to the opposite extreme, back to embracing coal. You know what I mean? Not the worst strategy. And I think we see that a lot. I think we saw that with the sexes, that they divided it in the 60s and 70s, at least through the idea that we have of the 60s and 70s. That's what, I'm not going to refer to the 60s and 70s empirically because I wasn't there. I mean, even if I was, I only would have seen a tiny little snippet, right? But the idea that we have, and it's the kind of idea that informs people these days, especially women, it seems. I went to the Barbie theaters. I've seen the things online, people talking with the Barbie film. And part of me thinks like it's like these people have had their irises and their brains pummeled with so much repetitive conditioning of what the female and masculine dynamic is, especially I think through the 90s and the noughties, like with American Pie and shit like that. And I think that had such a profound effect on shaping people and to some degree shaping the way people behaved. I do believe that in truth there are some characters in reality that resemble characters in Barbie. What upset me about the Barbie movie, right, is that there was no fair representation at all of any normal man, like every single fucking man in every single role in that film. Even Andy, the guy that's played by Sarah, was weird, right? Like Beta, I was weird, but everyone else was a deplorable or petty or weak or it just seemed like it was just rubbing man's face, and it's like I don't remember a show where every single woman is portrayed in every single role as being vindictive and frivolous and superficial and egoic and codependent and needing everyone else and helpless. Like I don't remember, maybe in the 60s. And that's what I mean. I think a lot of people when they listen to Guevara's speech in the Barbie movie and people get all wet about it, like, oh my God, oh that speech, I felt it, that really touched me, that really spoke. I cried. I cried when I watched it. I'm like, I think you cried because you're living in a reality bubble that's been mostly informed by what you've seen on TV, and then by maybe a few select examples that you've had in reality that reinforce it in reality, based in truth. But I think you're missing the point. Like, I don't think all men are like that. The way that the movie is kind of making it out. You know what I mean? That's where the insult is. It's like it's just rubbing man's face in it, and that's where it is now. I think we're moving into a world now where women applaud that movie because they think it's feminism. They think it's progressive. What it actually is, in my opinion, is masculinism. It's actually turning women into men. It's turning women into toxic masculine, and now we're seeing a switch where men are kind of being kind of manipulated and coerced to just submissively accept their position awkwardly of being demasculinated beta males. You know what I mean? Like the toxic passive masculine. And in women, I think they're conditioning to be more toxic active, like active toxic masculine and passive toxic masculine in men. Um, and to see how they got to this point, like you really got to go back to them pummeling us with this idea of like the man goes to work and the woman stays at the kitchen and that whole entire black and white dichotomy. And then, and then even in Germaine Greer, right? The female eunuch, the feminist, who believed that you're not a real woman unless you've tasted your own menstrual blood, right? Pretty extreme, but cool. It's a powerful statement and thing to think about. But even she said, like in another book, I think it's called The Second Sex by someone that was around the same time as Germaine Greer. I read some of The Second Sex and The Female Eunuch, and The Second Sex I want to talk about a bit more. The the basic concept was that a woman's value, apparently back then in the 60s and whatnot, was dependent on the man. That they called the second sex because the male is the first sex, and the woman's function and value depends on the male that she's with. So this was the era, allegedly, where it was more about like who you marry, do they have a good job and a nice house, and this, and that, right? It was all about status and ego. And the woman, don't talk back, know your role, speak only when spoken to, that kind of thing. Um, tending to the children in the kitchen and whatnot. And I think what they did is I think they took the natural characteristics and the natural drives and roles that the sexes, not the genders don't fucking exist, that the sexes, the male and the females generally would fall into, these general roles that they fall into. They took them and made it very hyped up, black and white, very separate. Like the man, it's kind of like what they're doing again now, but in reverse again, right? What they did was like the man can't be feminine and the feminine can't be masculine. The woman isn't the breadwinner, the man isn't the one that cooks. It was very separate. Yin is over here, yang is over there, black and white. And that can only work for so long because it's not meant to be black and white. Life isn't meant to be black and white, which is what it's become. It's been that way for a while, hasn't it? With a lot of blue and red. When I say blue, it makes me think about technology and intellectual logic and communication and a lot of online stuff. That's where the blue comes from. Red, mostly through anger, less about passion and love. It's mostly through pent up despair and rage and anger because I think a lot of us feel that. I think a lot of us feel there's something not right, and things have gone incredibly awry. But back then it was very separate. It could only last that way for so long. And I think this is a very clever strategy, so like socially programming wise. Because after a while, we can then feign that we have a period of like, oh, we're waking up now. Now we're becoming wiser. We went through the PC era of fucking using politically correct language and whatever. We're stepping into more ethics and fairness and being more conscientious and considerate and mindful, and then that started really leaking into the gender thing and equality and all of this. But now what I see happening is that all that happened was now that a woman has to work as much as a man, and both man and woman in a relationship have to get multiple jobs in some cases to provide for the family. So cool, feminists, you no longer have to just stay at home and do whatever. Now you have to work full time, just like your partner. Hooray! You don't have to spend all that time with your children. Hooray! Um, yeah, and now it's like the opposite extreme where it's like what I see but being portrayed whenever I see a male character and a female character now and for the last few years, the male is generally weaker, kind of aloof, a lot of the time aloof and kind of frivolous. Like I said, it's like it's literally been reversed. Like we're back in the 60s. And kind of like what Barbie, like what the movie Barbie, the way it portrayed it was kind of like the 60s idea with a little bit of 90s American Pie in terms of like how crude the men were and objectifying women so explicitly, right? But I think that like that kind of captured that idea of how the 60s were, the idea that men were very much repressed and ignored and their feelings didn't really matter, and they were the second sex. Ken was the second sex. He wasn't an individual in his own right. Next to Barbie at equal levels, he was like a doormat, and it even finished like that. And I think maybe that's how this. I don't know if that's how the 60s were. It's how it's portrayed, and now it's the other way around, where like that is the reality. Like I don't think that the Barbie movie, like people keep saying erroneously, I believe, is a reflection of how things are today or how things have been for a long time. I don't believe that. I don't buy that. If you live in a world that's informed by what you watch more than your actual direct experiences, then maybe, sure. But I believe that that movie is actually a mirror parallel to how things are now, or it's like the send off of like this is where we're going, and we've already made progress. Like where I think men are in positions now where they, like either being confused into thinking they're women or feeling powerless to talk about things. Like I've had like a family court thing going on with the mother of our children, and it's just been a horrible situation where the mother, just got overwhelmed, and after following COVID and saying no to everything, we were left traveling while pregnant, and then with a 1 year with a newborn. We had a house for a bit when Omega was born, okay, 3.5 years ago, and then we went traveling around a bit and lived out of gazebos, dongas, different places, and it was isolation. We're in a world where everyone's wearing a fucking mask and looking down on us, and our child's just falling on our head, and we're trying to get an ice pack from the chemist, and the guard there is fucking following us through every aisle, watching us like we're terrorists because we're not wearing a mask and refuse to. So it was an isolating time, and I think having our child Omega, and then 2 months later, being pregnant again, and it's not like when we felt pregnant, when the mother of our children fell pregnant with Omega, we only were dating for a month at that point. We're only dating for a month when she fell pregnant. So it's not like she was really prepared for it. I'd always wanted to be a mother, so to speak, or a father. I always wanted to be a nurturer when I say that. I don't believe I'm a woman, but the mother role is what I mean. So she just didn't handle it well, and some stuff went down because it started affecting her mental health a bit, and so family court became a thing. And I went in there thinking like, I'm just going to tell them how it is, that I love this person, that I want 50-50 with them, that I have some concerns, and this and that. And I was just honest, and didn't matter who I talked to, whether it was the Department of Child Protection, or a family court psychotherapist doing like a CAC conference, or police were actually a lot more fair and understanding. Actually, I had a lot more positive experience with the police, or just not like less gaslighty experiences. I've not experienced. I've dated covert narcissistic women my entire life. I'm attracted to it because my mother exhibits characteristics of covert narcissism, um, which I've done lots of talks on. Like, unless like I could do a thesis on what that is. And it's a sad thing. It's not like these people are necessarily evil. I don't believe in evil per se. I believe that people can be void of light and void of conscience and be sadistic, and that's just what they are. Like, what the fuck is evil? Unless it's living backwards, then you can say, well, that's what evil means. If you're living opposite and living backwards to the way you should be living, like causing harm, right? That's living backwards. But anyway, that's the only way I'd use the term. But so I went through court and I really learned like I'd never been gaslighted so much. I'd never been like just trying to tell my truth, and these people are like trying to steer the situation. They're trying to rewrite what I'm saying, what they're saying, and create a narrative that's black and white. That's the man. Man's the abuser, woman's the victim. There's conflict, and I'm like, I'm literally saying I want 50 with her. That's not even in the report. She's written a bunch of stuff in this report that they read in court that isn't true. I never said that, and it didn't help. It didn't help build trust with the mother, and yeah, and even then I said like I've got evidence for some things for my concerns. I'm not just shitting on her. I love her. I respect her. I understand and I have compassion why she's in the place she's in. But my concerns are very real. And this is why nobody was interested except one guy, the only guy. And at that point, me and the mother of our children were in a better place of trust. And I didn't want to upset that. So I didn't give the evidence to DCP. And that was the second case out of five, right, that have been opened. Everyone else were women. Okay, the man was interested in observing the evidence, and the women, I tried all four cases. I tried. I said, look, and I won't tell you what it's about, but I said it's stuff. When I say, look, I've got a recording of this person saying or doing, and you'd think like, okay, somebody designated with the task of protecting children, you'd want to be aware of any potential risks. This guy's saying he's got evidence of severe risks. But we're not going to observe that. Trust us. Me and insert name here, we have a good relationship. If anything happened, she would tell me. I literally had a DCP worker to say that to me once. I said, I think this happened. I don't think she's being honest. And they said, look, Jamie, I appreciate your concern, but me and blah have a good relationship. She would tell me if something happened. I'm like, oh, you have a good relationship, do you? Okay. I was like, do we have a good relationship? And she goes, you come in here, Jamie, and you tell me what you're concerned about. And I see that you're acting responsibly and out of concern for your children. I'm like, okay. So we have an okay relationship, like you two have a good relationship. It's weird. It's fucking weird. People say it's a man's world. And in some ways it is. But these days, definition of man is out the window, right? Women are being turned into men. Women are more men these days than men are. hmm Women are strive, and not even like what is a man, what is a woman. Women, the idea of what women used to be, it's not so much the cases like that anymore. They're becoming more like how men used to be, and the idea of a man based on how men used to be, or is more like now. It's more like how women used to be. In some ways, it's a man's world. In other ways, it's a woman's world. And when you go through family court, when you go through any kind of law, from what I've researched, because I'm not alone. Like I've spoken with others, and I've gained so much insight. Even the police tell me, like, oh, like I went to a judge and I came up with 13 police reports at that point. Oh no, at that point it was 10 police reports, things that had happened in that previous month involving me and the children. And I was like, I just want the restraining order. If you want to hear her point of view, fine, but an interim, right? Because they generally do that. She's like, no, I think I'm going to wait till I hear the other person's point of view. And I'm thinking, like, what more do you need? I've got evidence. I've got, I won't even go into what had been happening. Um, and then that same week, one was served on me because she had applied, and all she needed to say was, I have reason to suspect I may not be safe from this man. He has behaved in a way that gives me reason to suspect I'm not safe. That was enough to get the restraining order interim. That's been cancelled now, so that's no longer on me. Eventually, but that's what I mean when you enter law, and if you enter law as a woman, it depends. Sometimes it can go either way because nothing is black and white. Everything's gray, but you have higher concentration or saturation points of black or white sometimes, like lighter gray and darker gray. If you're a woman, generally speaking, you'll find it's lighter gray. If you're a man, generally speaking, going through law, or especially with family or anything really, it's generally much heavier in the darker patch regions for you, and that's a pretty important way. Like, I would be happy to say it's a man's world because they earn X more dollars per hour and have these positions more than women do. If it's so easy for me to literally take all of that, or if it's so much easier for me through the system, which just works a bit better for me, to take half of that without having to really do too much. Like, to me, that's kind of a good balance out. If anything, I'd say, not to say that all women are inclined to do that and to utilize the system to weaponize it and to advance themselves. All I'm saying is that there are mechanisms in place and there are ways the system is built to allow things to very fucking well and truly even out. And I say a guy that's been working 20 years and then a woman takes half of that, like the ex-wife or whatever. I and she, didn't get to work in those positions and had the luxury of whatever else she's doing. and maybe not the luxury, maybe she was just working lower paid jobs, but still getting half when you didn't have to do the same shit he had to do for all that time. That's a pretty good deal, I would say. But people are pretty lopsided. Like, I'm not a feminist. I'm all for fempowerment, but I'm also for like empowering men, and but more than that, I'm empowering humans, empowering life, whatever way, whatever label you want to use and reference schema and classification system. I'm all about empowering life, and trying to more deeply empower the self, whilst remembering that like more power is found in being humble, and it's not about, like I said, the loudest and most physical people are not the most powerful. They're compensating for something. That's why they're so angry. That's why they're so fixated on the gym, on getting so big, right? I see somebody sitting there reading a book, and to me, that's somebody. That's like seeing someone at the gym trying to build themselves physically, but they're doing it mentally, and then maybe they're trying to build up their wisdom, or their knowledge, or their imagination, or their awareness, their ways of thinking and improving, whatever it is. And it depends on what you value and what you call strength. Someone might think strength in the physical domain, like like Jake Paul, he might think that he's an alpha male because he beat an old guy who almost died 5 months back, 4 months back. Someone else might be like, well, I could kick your ass in a game of chess, literally, um, if I only look at the board every 3 moves. So I'm the alpha. And at the end of the day, if it came down to it, in a game of survival and different types of challenges in the world, there would be cases where the alpha physicals, all right, let's say the alpha earthies would excel. Let's say the alpha mentalists or the alpha aries would excel. The alpha feelers, like the intuitive people that understand how people are and have better affiliations and networking and relationship fostering, I would say that they would advance and survive in some ways. And then the more spiritual would have their role, right? The fire, like the more ambitious with the drive, with the passion. Fuck yeah. And once again, like I think we all embody the earth, air, fire, water. We all embody that physical element, the mental element, that drive, passionate element, and the emotional element. It's about balance. But most people, I think, they have like a primary, like they're more fiery, and then secondary might be more mental, and then more physical, and then emotions like their weak suit. Other people might be the opposite, and you have different combinations of people, and it can be quite dynamic. Like you'll find like fiery people, real passionate people might get a rise from hanging around mentalists, because mentalists, airy people, because air helps fire excel. The mentalists would inspire them and give them ideas, and these people have the fire and the drive and the passion and that creative spark to take that idea and like, fuck yeah, thanks dude, I'm so good at how to talk with you, and they run with it and they fly like a phoenix, right? But likewise, you think about the dynamic between fire and air. Like fire eats oxygen, right? It sucks it. Not in a way that's so satisfying in this case. So in the airy person might feel a bit depleted if they spend too much time with the fiery people. Like they enjoy it every now and then. They enjoy being of service, but like that person might be full on and they just want to flow. And so it's interesting, like looking at things through that elemental lens. And tying it to this is like, you can't take earth, air, fire, water. You can't take the mind, the body, the soul, the emotional landscape that truly makes us this kind of cocktail, if you will, of different types of schema, right? Like sub schema, like emotional sub schema, physical, mental, spiritual sub schema, that ultimately comes together and culminatively to create the overall like master schema, which is what I am, which is what you are, whatever scheme you are, whatever overall composition out of those different elemental notes. And to move from that perspective and the way of talking and thinking, right? And perceiving all that into like, well, fucking, I feel like I like stuff that the idea of a woman likes. And I have a penis, so I got to chop that off because I am not a penis wearer. I'm not a penis wearer because I subscribe to the thing that society teaches me women like. So I can't have a penis because I like those things. It's a bit Mm, that whole thing, and the whole thing, the children getting involved. Google Pixel, Google Pixel shifting to back to the style over service, mask over face, commentary over the actual event. Um, what the fuck's up with that? What's your thoughts of Google Pixel phone? We know we're in a doomed position when you see the adverts, because when they do these adverts, they fucking know. They know who they're marketing to. They've done their research. They know whether it's going to be received disastrously. Let's just put it that way. And if they think it's going to be a flop and they're going to waste their money creating the advert and paying to get it out there, they're not going to do it. So you know that we're a bit foobarred, a bit fucked beyond repair when you see adverts for Google Pixel phone, and it's like, fair enough. Like, it's a bit fake that you can take a picture of your family in front of a mountainscape and then get your wife to walk over and hold the camera and you switch places and then she snaps a shot and then it artificially inserts you into the image with your family as if you were standing there for realsies the whole time. Bit fake, bit misleading, bit that didn't actually happen like that. So why do you want a memory of something that didn't happen? Why do you want the appearance of an event? Because clearly, why do you just want the appearance of something? When clearly it's not even about the memory of what happened because you weren't fucking there. And it gets worse. It gets worse when you got these AI filters and these things that can correct your photos to make them perfect. So that if your children are crying or if they're sad in a photo, it automatically, or you can just click a thing and it will replace their from with a big fucking artificial smile, and you see the same uncanny valley fucking smile through all your photo albums. You have a child looking back on the albums when they're 30 years old at all these pictures, and I open it like it's a book. That shows how ancient I am. You have a person with a remote. Sorry, I'm still ancient doing that. You have a person merely thinking and going through their fucking album, looking at all the pictures of their childhood, and they're like, "Oh, I have such a big, sparkly smile in every single shot. I had really good teeth as a kid. I thought I had terrible teeth. I thought my parents were really neglectful, but I guess that was just, yeah, I mean, not that I've been gaslighted by AI or anything, but I think I was wrong with my memory. I have really good teeth. Oh, sorry, mom and dad. You really did take good care of me. And I'm smiling in every single fucking photo. I must have had a happy childhood. I mean, I remember being quite depressed in a lot of that. I mentioned this in a previous talk, but I'm just rehashing it because it fits in here. It's like, what if you had a moment in your time where you came from a funeral and you lost someone that you love, like truly, and it broke your heart, and you had a photo that day because you had to go out somewhere, something was happening, and you're really sad in the photo. You can really see that you're quite depressed. And then luckily, you got Google Pixel just to change that, right? Then you look back at this photo and you think like, you just go through all these photos of you smiling, and you can't really connect with most of them because one, they're not really, they're not real anymore. These aren't memories, mnemonically linking you to an event of the past. These are representations of an idea with a lot of resemblance of what happened, but these are presentations now. It's a presented appearance of something that happened that didn't quite happen like that. So you don't, so you might have one version of reality where Google Pixel phone and this type of technology never became fucking lucrative enough to advertise and create in the first place, let alone people fucking using it, right? I obviously don't use it. See, I honestly don't fucking use it. But you have one reality where someone's looking through and they see these images, and the images will have some where they're smiling and they remember. Oh, they look at the photo and think, "Wow, I've seen like most of the photos. I'm distracted, got a funny face, or I'm just serious or focused on something." But then there'll be photos where they're really happy and the smile is shining resplendently, and they can connect and be like, why was I so happy? Oh, that's why I was so happy in that one photo, or there's two, three photos, because this or that happened. Transversely, if it's a frown, they say, oh, that's the day that tragedy happened. That's the day that my friend passed away, or we lost our dog, right? And it actually links them to a time in their life, an experience that they had authentically. It links them to an experience. It doesn't give the appearance of an idealized or an ideal appearance of how something should have appeared at the time. Like, it's fucking weird. It's so fucking weird. Like when I saw that advert for Google Pixel phone and they chose to put that out there, I'm like, we're gone. We're fucking Gomorra'd up in here. We are gone. Oh, because now people can't even connect in 30, 40 years' time, looking back at the childhood photos, and if all of it's been taken with this technology and corrected, it's like, how they know the sad days apart from the happy days? How they know the truly happy days apart from the mundane days? Or moments, I should say. So it's not just about monetizing moments, but it's also about fabricating and replacing moments. It's about fabricating, fabricating. It's like fabricating, but to make it look more fabulous. Maybe that's what it should be called. When they replace your smile with something AI generated, they're fabricating your image, right? But it's like it's no longer about these memories of true experiences. It's just about the presentation. It's just about the idea of a life I lived based on my ideas. It's pretty much putting anyone into a position where they're detached, looking at themselves. This whole entire thing of the world we're in now, everything I'm talking about, they're detached, looking at their value from the outside in, objectified, purely objects, right? And they've been given all the tools now with these AI phones and AI technology and everything, and the way that we present everything online and edit and curate and filters and all of this fucking shit. We're in the perfect position where we can gaslight ourselves, into literally believing that we are anything at any given time, that our position in life is here instead of there at whatever time. We have all the tools now, at least in hindsight and at least through the eyes of other people, um, to rewrite the narrative despite the real events of our lives and the true facts about what our lives consist of in a meaningful, authentic, and real level. We control how it appears. And through that control and through that fabrication, we receive validation. And since we're removed from our source and our candle, which has gone off dim or completely out for many, I believe, that's, that we seek codependently the light from others because our light is out. They're the most vampiric. Those that stay in the night, that can't handle the light too much because they've disconnected from it, right? But they still need to gravitate to people who carry the light inside and siphon that energy, right, of life, true life. Um, Not just like dancing on the surface, like, yeah, I'm dancing in a club, but like you're barely alive, barely really beyond physical sensation of gratification and excitement and sensory, like, stimulation. You're like you're not really connected with. There's nothing meaningful about it. Um, it's just drives. It's just basal drives, and that's kind of where we're at. Like animals reduced to our base drives, looking at ourselves from the outside, disconnected from our inner flame, with a world moving into the metaverse and virtual living and augmentation. Where soon everyone will be wearing glasses at some point, not too far, and you'll be in a room with 5 people. And I should have done the math on this prior and written down a note. But there's not just gonna, you think, okay, each person's going to have like glasses on, and to that person I'm going to be like Finn from Adventure Time, to that person I'm going to be Woody from Toy Story, to that person I'm going to be the Terminator, to that person they're going to have a skin, some kind of filter on their glasses that makes me look um like them, but when they're 10 years younger, because to that narcissist they've made it so that everyone else just looks like different versions of them. You know what I mean? We're going to be able to augment our reality and fabricate the world in which we are living in, that we can virtually experience, that we can optically experience with a degree of emulated physical and haptic um, sensations to boot, right? So we can literally gaslight ourselves into believing whatever we want to believe, whatever is ideal. Just like with the Google Pixel thing, that's just like a small step right towards all of that. And this is terrifying to me. Um, and the other thing I've been thinking about, because no, it's a bit of a long video, it's a bit of a long contemplation, and so I'm just going to go with it. I was seeing, you guys heard about that rhesus monkeys experiment where they had two groups of monkeys, right? The baby monkeys. One, they gave like a cage, like a fake substitute parent, like an older monkey, but it wasn't actually a monkey. It was like a wireframe model of a monkey, and it was just the frame. And they put milk on it. They put milk on a bottle and put it on that thing, and they put some little baby rhesus monkeys. They had another one that was also a fake monkey, but it didn't have any milk. But they wrapped up this caged, like chicken wire type monkey thing with cloth, like with fur, like emulating the softness of mama monkey. And who do you think? Who do you think the baby monkeys stayed with the most? Do you think they stayed with the furry, warm, nurturing monkey? Or do you think they gravitated and stayed by the side of the one that had the milk? Whoever's watching, feel free to answer. Are you able to answer? What do you think? I don't know if you've heard about this. I see a number one there. But who do you think? You know, you got one that's just a chicken mesh fucking monkey, one that's a chicken mesh monkey with fur, but the chicken mesh monkey without the fur has the milk. And both of them, they do experiments. The monkeys can go to one or the other. Which one do you think they spend more time with? I'll give the answer in 8 seconds. 8, 7, 6. They spent more time with the cloth monkey, with the one that's wrapped up in cloth. Yep, not the cage one with the milk. And at first, I thought it would have been the milk thing. And what they observed was that these rhesus monkeys actually they'd go and get the milk when they really felt thirsty and or hungry because it was like a formula type thing, and then they'd spend more time with the furry monkey, right? Obviously, when they do the test again with the real monkey, the monkeys spend more time with the real monkey, right? Interesting thing is, the monkeys that chose, I think they did one experiment where they put monkeys only with the mesh version and they didn't give them a second option. And also another a version of the same experiment where they separated and put them with the cloth version. Those that spent the time with the one that didn't have the cloth on it, so it just the only difference was that it looked different and it felt different because it didn't have the fur on it. Those monkeys ended up developing a range of issues biologically with their health. They became infertile, couldn't reproduce, and whilst the monkeys that had the version of the surrogate, that's the one, the artificial surrogate with the fur, whilst they were better with their health, they were still relatively infertile for the most part, and most of them, and still had problems. But it wasn't as bad. It was like way worse than the one that just had milk, but didn't resemble anything alive. It didn't resemble anything furry and warm like a real monkey, right? So, and this is really fascinating because it makes you think like, so it's not even just about it being actually really alive and being the real mama monkey. It's about the perception based on the feeling the fur and seeing the fur and it looking more like a monkey, that perception actually changes one's biology and probably one's neurochemistry for sure, right? And ability to reproduce. This is fascinating to me. Um, and obviously, even the one that looked like the monkey, like I said, they were still stunted in their development because at the end of the day, what we need is real connection. What we need is real connection. This e world in which they will be gods that we are moving into swifter than you know. Like we're already at the point where we've been doing this social media thing and been isolated, and they're kind of breaking us in gradually but incrementally. And the lockdowns is a big part of it into this new thing where education and shopping and everything will be online. And now we're at the point where like we're seeing AI generated everything. And you know, I'm behind getting your message out with AI generated music if you can't make music. And, you know, I wouldn't necessarily be like, I made this song, this is mine, pay me money for it. But if you use that in conjunction with other forms of art to create something and you've put some of you into it, I'd say that adds a lot of value into like your overall creation, like a music video that's actually got a poignant point. But one thing that kind of irritates me is AI voices. Because I'm like, fair enough. Not everyone can make videos, high quality videos. They can't even afford the equipment for that, let alone be able to shoot like the things that's required to get the shots. Like I literally in 5 minutes can create such an array of different types of shots and different locations of different things that would take me years to figure out how to do for real with special effects and editing, and computer generated stuff, like but more manual. And then also, traveling and getting the dolly systems and everything, the cameras and um, like years shrink down into minutes, sometimes seconds, right? So I understand that. I understand that that there's value in using that technology. Same goes for music. Not everyone has that ability. People say, "Well, master it if you want." It's like, dude, what if you want to do everything? You can't do everything. But now we're moving into a world where everyone, if their heart feels pulled at trying so many different things, we can actually experience more of that to a degree. And if we really choose to like align with something and be more specialized and more hands-on into that, that can be the thing we master or one of the things, right? But AI voice, like music video, I get. Images, I get. Photography, I get. Right? It's easier to generate for some people, and it requires money and time and a lot of investment in skill development to be able to do those other things, the videos and the music, especially. Photography, probably not as hard, right? But even then, that's an art, so who am I to say? AI voices annoy me because it's like, dude, what is stopping you from just doing the talking yourself? Like, why? It's bad enough that we see this unreal technology like a fucking lightsaber being used, like the parts of a lightsaber being used by people to reassemble the fucking axe, like the Stone Age axe. They're trying to recreate the same tropes, the Western film, the noir film, the sci-fi film, the zombie film, uh, and the shit like the Ramsey shit. I'm like, dude, like you have unreal tech. You can take anything in your imagination and create it and even in a meaningful way. And I don't really see too much meaningful content. I don't really see it being utilized for people to bring out their vision. I don't really get the feeling like I'm observing like a vision when I'm watching what people put out there. Sometimes a little bit. I've seen one of the cat, the cat and the father gets ran over and it's like meow, 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 meow. That's the closest I've seen to like somebody with a vision that's coming out and they're using the AI tech for it. Um, And to be honest, I haven't put it too much like that. I started. You can find some of the stuff on this channel that I started, but um, and the Jankiverse is coming. But the whole AI voice thing, like, it's bad enough that people are replicating the old tropes, the old ideas. They're trying to replicate the same old cinematic experience with continuity. Where it's like, dude, why is that big on continuity? Just enjoy AI where it's at. Make like super crazy montages of different cool ideas that you can thematically tie together in music videos and whatever, or whatever. Unless you're doing it for a job, then I understand you want to have continuity. But so to me that seems a bit like stagnant in some ways if people aren't really, I mean, if they're enjoying it, fine. But to me it's like, why use the Unreal to create the same old? Unless you have to do that. The AI voices, I don't see it. People have this thing where it's like everything has to be AI. Like putting AI on a pedestal. To me, I'm using AI to bring out my heart and my soul and what I feel passionate about, and my views to stir some thinking. Like the amount of times I use the words emotionally evocative and thought provoking when I'm doing prompts with ChatGPT and I'm tweaking. And even then, it's a back and forth discourse and tweaking and adding my own corrections based on my own know of learning these terms over years to get what I'm going for. And it's to bring out my heart and my soul. So like, why, but I get this feeling that people like This is done by IDD, voiced by IDD, music by Udio or Suno, visual by Sora or whatever. And it's like, where's the human component? Prompts by ChatGPT. Like, where are you? Where are you in whatever you're creating? Is it even you creating it, or you? Is it literally this thing's creating it, and you're like the assistant of the AI? All of a sudden, the AI is no longer your assistant. Like I try to use it, like it's my assistant to assist me in bringing out my vision and my heart and my soul and bringing it out. It's like you're assisting the AI to bring out its vision. Like you ask it to come up with an idea for a script and then use that exact same script. And then the music that you write for that video script, use the exact same script it gives you for the song, and then the prompts that it's given you to take to another AI model, and then it pumps out these videos and whatnot, and then you assist it by taking all that output and editing it together. Like you become the assistant for the AI, and the AI doesn't have heart, it doesn't have soul, so it's noise. It's once again pure style, no substance. Even to the point where like I don't even want to use my voice. And what, you got to be a voice expert to be able to talk. Like it doesn't, like fair enough. Some people might have some. I no. It doesn't even matter how you sound. If you're able to talk, even if you have, let's say, a funny voice, then just be authentic, be you. Figure out what can you use that voice for. If you've got a funny voice, awesome. Funny videos do really well. Or do news in a serious way, informing people, but in a way that's also a bit whimsical. Like, why not use your fucking voice? I get it if you want to use it sometimes to do other characters and voices that you can't do, like female characters if you're a man, and it's hard for you to do that kind of range vocally. But otherwise, it just feels like it's void of the point. Like, and it sucks. Like, I really see it moving to the point where we are becoming assistants to artificial intelligence, and we are becoming assistants to technology. The amount of times, like you think about the times you have to sign up and subscription, and it asks for these details, and you have to go on your phone to confirm this, and that. Like the things we have to do, even just to passively consume propaganda, right? Stuff we have to do, and the amount of assisting and action we have to take just to get these things to work for us is insane. Like I don't want to live in a world where we're living to assist robots and software and algorithms and fucking AI. AI should be assisting us, right? So the whole AI voice thing, and you want to know why I brought up the Reese's monkey thing, and why when monkeys have a fake surrogate mother that's not real, they end up with a myriad of biological problems and losing their ability to reproduce. You want to know why I bring that up? Because if we're now already entering this new kind of era, this new world where a lot of what we're watching is artificially generated, like artificial intelligence. The music is artificially generated, so it's not even like real heart and soul. The voices, and I'm seeing this a lot, too much for my liking. God, it puts me off. But the voices are artificially and AI generated. So if we end up getting to the point where what we're observing and what we're consuming online and what our children are consuming online, it doesn't have you in it anymore. It doesn't have the human element in it anymore. It's what you're seeing, the music you're hearing, and the voice of the music, and the vocals you're hearing, and the talking and narration that you're hearing, all of it, even the SFX to a degree, like all of it is fake. All of it is synthetic or artificially generated. And there's no traces of spirit or heart or real humans in it anymore. Then just like the rhesus monkey that were overexposed to a fake surrogate mother monkey, even the one that looked real, even the one that looked real, but wasn't, and that fucked them up in their development, and they couldn't reproduce. If that happened to the monkeys, what's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to us if we spend more of our time connecting with something that isn't there? Connecting with faces and voices and lyrics and images that have no basis in reality, that have no authenticity, that don't even stem in any fashion whatsoever, besides, you could say, being scraped from a pool of collective human expression, but has no resemblance of real heart or soul or even mind behind it. It's just noise arranged in a way that appears like a person that's got making noise that sounds like words being spoken. What happens to us then? What happens to us when we spend more time connecting with surrogate life, surrogate expression, surrogate humans, surrogate music? Just like the Reese's with the surrogate mother. When everything that we become exposed to, or more and more increasingly, becomes just about the style, just about the appearance, appearing like a real person with real music, with a real voice, with a real narrative, and all of it is artificially generated, and or more of it is, then would we perhaps become somewhat sterile ourselves, maybe emotionally or mentally, even though it's replicating the same appearance as the real thing, just like their surrogate mother monkey in the Reese's monkey experiment. Even though it appears real, would it also have adverse impact on us and our development? To me, the answer is pretty obvious. I mean that's a much more dramatic crossover. When if we're spending more time, let's say we end up in lockdown days with curfews and everything is delivered to us via drone or delivery, like driven automated cars. Um, Even education is online and done through AI, right? Let's say we're living in that world where everything is AI, and therefore everything is monitored and recorded and um, brought back into that eye, the all-seeing eye, the AI, the all-seeing eye that has access to that information, and it's constantly feeding back into its awareness. So it's absolute awareness of everything, and more or less, and absolute, therefore, control. What becomes of man in that space? What becomes of us? What becomes of you and me? More importantly, what becomes of what's your child's name? What becomes of them? What becomes of their children? Will people still have names at that point? Will names be like another thing that they'll be erasing from books because it's offensive? And that will be when they're moving into an age of enlightenment, of like, that's individuation and that's ego, and I do not support that. We struck the names from all the books back at this date. When does the madness stop? How far must the madness progress until we start getting grounded in sanity enough and get our foot really dug in there and stand up and stand our ground and say, this is messed up. We're not going along with the ride. I don't know what you weird Europeans and whoever else is on board, and you guys in your little fucking forum, think what right you have. Um, but like we're not gonna comply. Oh, cool. So I'm not gonna be able to work unless I do this thing. Like veer on the side of caution, right? And now you're warning me these things have been fast tracked. And in all the movies, they always preach like, "Oh yes, better safe than sorry." Like that saying, right? Better safe than sorry, because everyone fucking says it. Like it's a basic universal wisdom that we've come to know and we come to accept. Yeah. Unless we're talking 2020, 2021, 22, then you're a fucking anti-vaxxer and you like to kill the elderly and children. If you appreciate the wisdom of better safe than sorry. You guys have warned it's been fast tracked. You're not going to know even all the full scope of the impact of it in a few years, until a few years' time. And I've done my research to know what messenger ribonucleic acid slash mRNA actually is. And even that alone, combined with the fact that alone is huge. That's like DNA fucking like shifting shit, right? And you don't even know the full scope of what this is going to do until 2 years' time, and you have indemnity from accountability and can't be sued. Well, better safe than sorry. That's where I stand. That's where I stood with that. And it's funny. It's funny we have these age-old axioms, and then things the script just flips, and suddenly you're a madman, you're an anti-vaxxer, just because you're being cautious and doing your diligence, especially if you've got family, doing your duty of care, right? You're researching. You care about the liberties and the freedoms of every man, woman, and child, and otherwise, if there is such a thing. And yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff here I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about, like growing trends, wedding photo retouches. Apparently, that's a big thing that's growing. People like, it goes back to the Google phone, turning your child's frown upside down because it's less about connecting with the actual fucking experience you truly had, and it's more about how things appear to you and your friends and family when you show them these photos later on. Fuck the reality of my life. It looks like we had a good time, right? Same thing with the wedding photo retouches. It's like it's sacred. Like nothing is sacred anymore. Like if there's anything, you're gonna be like, nope, we're not touching it. We're leaving it as it is. We're gonna honor that that's a very sacred space. It was a very sacred thing that happened. We got married that day. We're not touching it. No, let's just see wedding photo retouches trend now. Reality TV show contradictions was another point I was just going to touch on quick. And it's a contradiction because you have these scripted, kind of like content creators that go out traveling, and it creates a spontaneous, atmospheric, we're living life kind of vibe, but it's all very like orchestrated, sometimes storyboarded, even speeches that are meant to be like heartfelt and organic, and then they're reading like from a teleprompter. Same with a reality TV show. It's like, how do you have a reality TV show, and then people watch that, and then they think because it's called reality TV, right, that that's reality when it's not. It's drama packaged as a reality TV show, but it's all scripted. That's another thing of like people blurring the lines between truth and fiction, substance and style, to the point where a person forgets that they are more than just a fucking penis or vagina, that they are actually a personality, or next level a character, or next level a fucking spirit, next level consciousness, or vice versa, consciousness and spirit, or whatever. To the point where the lines are so blurred, where if somebody refers to me as a he, then they're talking about my sex, because sexually I can reproduce using my male reproduction system. That is my sex. And they're referring to me as a he. And that means they're referring to me as who I am. Because who I am as spirit and personality and consciousness and character is my sex. If someone says, oh, he's a great guy, they're clearly remarking upon the full scope of who I am, and I am insulted. So people blur the lines between truth and fiction, between reality and ideas. Yeah. The other thing I was going to talk about is, yeah, healthy food branding, I guess, falls in this category. Full transparency for this before I came on, just for some extra ideas, because I already had some preloaded seeds I wanted to water a little bit and see how it sprouts. But I thought I'd ask ChatGPT to, I gave it the basic spill of what I'm talking about. So give me some extra points, maybe for inspiration, to talk about that really exemplifies how we live in a style over substance world. And it gave me these ideas. Not the best ideas, but I already had enough to run with. Healthy food packaging is pretty obvious. You think you can just chuck on organic or whatever the fuck, and the stuff is still like processed to shit and may have other questionable ingredients, but it's the idea. Like people will literally spend 300% more, 250% more on a product because it says it's organic. Same thing with free range, I guess. That free range is like cool, they get to open the door in a barn twice a day, and they're all still like stuck in this thing. And it's, you can go down to further of that, like the kind of selfishness that people show. I mean, I say all this stuff, but it's not like, okay, I'm going to talk about donating in a second, and it's not like I donate a lot of money, right, to causes and that, because to me it's all a sinking ship and fuck everyone. I'm a bit in the dark side now. I finally got swept up. My candle has suffered, right? I'm not parading or virtue signaling as being something greater than what I actually am at this point in my life. But with that said, there's people that make a case and do virtue signal and do put themselves on a pedestal, and they take certain actions where, like charitable actions, maybe it's giving just a bit of money to someone on the street or somebody online, and then they think, "Oh, I've done my fucking part," and then they go and then they take from people way more than they give, and then they think that if they give and they film themselves giving, and a lot of like content creators, a lot of beasts out there, who actually take more than what they're giving back, but they love to appear charitable and like they're giving so much back to the people, and that's about the people, right? Um, so that's another style over substance, and people you can take literally a manipulative, deceptive, exploitive monster of a human being and call them a philanthropist, and people will go wild at you if you start questioning that person's ethics and their history and trying to inform them of the facts. They'll go wild at you because we're in a world of the Bible nailed it. The Bible nailed it that we wrestle not with blood. We wrestle not with flesh or blood, but with principalities, right? Principalities. The reality is that what we're experiencing here is a war of the worlds. It's a war of the worlds. Well, that is to say, it's a war of the words. Just like newspeak, the language that we use and the language as it is monitored and manipulated and over time shrunken down is very important because it's the language that we use in our minds that shapes our reality. If you do not use the word compassion or care or empathy or anything like those words, if we just if we go to a master thesaurus and remove all the care words, that dull care, then people wouldn't be able to care anymore because they can't even conceive it. I mean, to a degree, I think there's truth in that. I think there's an innate thing. We have innate drives. I think caring's one of them. I don't think you need to conceptualize it in your mind in order to feel that want to help someone that's suffering. We see that in children. But I think when your language becomes so corrupted to the point where you're like, yeah, fully sick, man, that's hell good. Oh, Jesus Christ, right? When your language gets turned inside out, like spells, because we're casting spells with our spelling, which is true when people say that. It's true. Because it shapes the reality, it shapes your experience. If we are taught to use very sterile, robotic language, very masculine language, then we're going to end up seeing a world that's a lot more masculine. We're going to relate to everything. Like, even though caring is always just a natural drive in a part, right? Generally, that it's there naturally. If we end up being indoctrinated and not just indoctrinated with words, but programmed to behave and commit to things that has us operating in ways that doesn't, it kind of gets in the way of us being able to connect with other people, right? It makes it harder to, then one, we're not going to have as many opportunities to step into that point. And we're using so much language in our minds and verbalizing and conceptualizing our experiences mentally through this language system, and even the way we communicate over time, over and over concepts, we're doing it in such a way that's it's putting us into a very logical space away from our emotional landscape and our emotional feeling and intuition. So yeah, it is a war of the words, and we wrestle not with flesh or blood, but with principalities, because it's the principles. It's the principles underlining the words we use. That's like a parasite, you could say, or it's contagious, you could say. That principles are contagious, and principles will determine whether one ends up living in a tyrannical kingship or in a completely like in a utopia of liberty and natural law and rights, or whatever law, where it's about fairness and good health and beauty and truth in balance, the heart and the feather in balance. Um, it's about the principles that we adopt and exercise, and you can't really, they say first it starts with a thought, and then it becomes a word, and then it becomes a decision or an action, and then the action becomes a pattern of actions or a behavior, and then the behavior becomes a like a ritual or a routine, and then that becomes a way of life. So if like Newspeak 1984, if you're editing down the words and you're making all very sterile, very masculine, you're taking away all the caring language. If you're going to that base fundamental level of words, to a large degree, that's going to shape how people think and conceptualize, because they're basing the concepts on the language they know, right? The words they're constantly exposed to and have to use, and words they're not allowed to use anymore, right? You speak. So from the ground up, like if that's been controlled, and that therefore limits like the thinking, it limits the words spoken from the thinking, and manipulates the direction of that, and manipulates the direction of the actions from the words, the rituals from the actions and behaviors, and the ways of life that we live in as a whole. And I say start with the self, then with your family, and then with your neighborhood, and then with your community, and then with your state, and then with your country, and then with the world. But with the self, from the deepest down level, one level more deeper in, micro wise, not macro, but micro, that's when you get to that point where it's about your principles. It's about the purpose inside your heart, the intent in your mind, and your heart when you're making a choice, when you're making decisions and acting, when you're responding instead of just reacting. It's about the meaning through which the words you use and the actions you employ are nothing but a means to extend into the world through. But if we're in this world where it's like we wrestle with principalities and we've been taught the principles of look out for the self. Yeah, man, be a fucking cunning shark. Do what you gotta do to get that power. Fucking everybody wants to be my enemy. I wanna be a millionaire. Billion, you know what I mean? This kind of shit. That's shaping us, man. I wanna be a billion. I hate that song. When I first heard that, I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? I wanna be a billionaire. The guy sings it with so much soul, so much heart. You know, it's like super meaningful, sounds super profound, whatever he's singing about. And he's singing about wanting to have a lot of money. Music's a big part of conditioning in that respect when it comes to principles and priming people emotionally. It's like music gives us the primer color, like on the paint palette, and then the news and the movies, especially when the music is overlaid with a sequence of imagery in a movie that we're watching. Oh, the effect of that conditioning wise. Because music really anchors. It goes past your conscious logic and right into your heart and primes you, gets you ready and all fucking lick it up to better adopt whatever fucking ideas, to better be more susceptible to feeling and thinking about something in this way or that way. Does music. So music's like the palette preparer. It gives you puts the colors there, gets the colors drawn out inside you, and then whatever you're seeing visually or hearing with the talking or the news or the movie or whatever or reading is what kind of brings out the details and actually draws the concepts using the color of the music and gives it more a definitive structure. Like this is the actual fucking narrative. This is the actual concept and idea that you're being indoctrinated with. So music is powerful. Music is a powerful way to prepare for a shift in mindset and to paradigm shift, to shift people's paradigms. It's kind of like putting fuel in the car, putting paint on the palette. You know, it's like music really fuels us. Or there's power in music and in radio and playing the same things over and over. You know what I mean? Um, there's power in going to extremes and then going to the opposite extreme while pretending that finally we're doing away with outdated gender stereotypes and now we're going to empowering women and balancing and blah 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 blah. But really, all you're doing is to the opposite extreme, where you're tricking women into thinking that feminism and being empowered is to act like active, toxic, masculine people. Um, so it's still going to be a man's world. At the end of it, everyone will be like a man. You just have like passive and active, both toxic, masculine, all taught to be codependent because they have no idea who the fuck they are. And while we're all fumbling within ourselves and around each other, desperately, disconnectedly, identitylessly, it doesn't matter because we'll take pictures, cling, and we'll appear happy with our lives together, like we know what we're doing and why we're here, and we're here sharing it together, and it's good. It's really good. I feel like that's a good spot to end it. I've got a few things here, but plastic surgery, AI enhanced Alien classic. Oh yeah, they took that old Alien classic movie and enhanced it. The AI like literally like it changed some of the scenes a little bit. You watch it and their faces and everything's like shifting. It's like what the fuck? It's like in the same way that they're rewriting old like Roald Dahl books or Ronald Dahl. What's her name? Roald Dahl, children's book writer. In the same way they're taking words out, changing he and she to they now, which is like where except like why what can we do? Why aren't we doing it? If there is something to do. But soon we can do that with AI. We can go back over old films and literally change it and replace things. So when someone's like, dude, you gotta watch this movie, you gotta watch They Live. And then, you watch it, they put on the glasses and look at the signs and it's like, we're here to protect you, serving you, truth, honesty, ethics. It's like, wait, that's not what the signs used to say. It used to say obey and you are a slave and shit like this. But they'll be able to do that. They'll be able to retrospectively edit what you're watching and what you're listening to, like everything, all time media that we're going to be listening to inside our boxes and curfew boxes eventually, because it's on the script. It's not a conspiracy. You can read up on, you can see the plan. It's out there. There's nothing hidden anymore. People hiding from the truth. That's what they say, right? Truth isn't hidden. That's how you know that it's endgame. We are in the endgame. Good timing for that movie, by the way. Good time to end that era of classic Marvel and move towards a more gritty and raw, super masculine, empowered, the strong female character kind of era. And men are like beta little bitches, which is fine. But yeah, that Alien classic, they kind of ruined that. Filters, touched on filters a little bit. That's fine. The language of authenticity and market branding, like people looking up on how to communicate concepts authentically, and they're using ChatGPT to write the script and whatever. That is just like whatever fashion, fast fashion, um, where it's about looking like prestigious and beautiful, but it's like the means by which a lot of that fashion was created is fucking ugly and void of ethics and based on exploitation. And this is so that people can wear it in a domain and context centered around beauty. So it's another way in which the style isn't just completely in its own realm and substance doesn't matter. In this case, style is the complete opposite of the substance. It's like peace, literally being forged from the blood and bones of war is fashion, and the beauty of fashion forged from sweatshops, you know, and exploitation. AI partners, people marrying AI, relationships with AI. Like I said, it's like the rhesus monkey thing. If you expose monkeys to a surrogate mother that's not real and fake, and they end up not being able to fucking procreate, and they end up stunted in their development, then what the fuck is it going to do to us? When not just what we're watching is all artificially generated, and even the voices aren't fucking real, so there's no real human connection. But then we start relying more on AI and robots to have a connection with. I mean, I don't know. People talk about like a conspiracy to render the population infertile, hence the gender confusion agenda, because that ultimately leads to more infertility. The vaccination theories that make people infertile. That's another one. And now with people actually, if people are spending more time observing and connecting with others and experiencing the world through their phones and through their TVs than they are actually in the real world, which I would say for a lot of people that's how it is right now. And if a lot of that is already starting to become more like artificial and AI and no actual humans involved, um, I would say that definitely would be impacting us. Just like the rhesus monkeys were stunted in their development and could not procreate anymore. If we end up dating AI and the bulk of our relationships and our connection that we need is based on an artificial surrogate of a genuine connection, like the idea and the appearance of it, just like the rhesus monkeys with the fake surrogate mother, that ended up being fucked because of that. Um, I don't think I need to spell out what I think it might do for us, but infertility might also be on the cards there. Because I think genuine connection is essential, just like it was for the rhesus monkeys in that experiment. And without genuine connection, they couldn't procreate. They couldn't function properly. It stunted their development. No longer did they thrive. And that's the thing, when we get lost on the surface, barely alive, then we no longer thrive. We're living backwards, quite evil, until we die. Babylon system. Can you hear the pistons? Care up to this, son. I gotta pack this shit head because I gotta have a napsy wap. Gotta have a bit of a napsy fap before I gotta have a napsy wap. Cheers for tuning in, guys. Thanks for all the comments. Nah, I'm not being sarcastic. Nah, I'm being serious. I'm being serious. I see all the comments. I got nothing to say. But thanks for watching. Anyone that's come in the room, um, thanks if it has served you. If it's just wasted your time, then I won't thank you for serving yourself. Um, you know, I say sorry. I'll say sorry for wasting your time. If you got nothing from this, then whoopsie. But I'm pretty sure people are pretty quick to be like interested and nope, nope, nope. That, like I said, soon that will be our reality, like yourself and what you are and your connection with that, whatever the fuck that can be at any given hour, right? We're entering into a world where like, oh, the possibilities of the self, oh, the possibilities of the outside world. And if you don't like aspects of the self, you don't like aspects of your children's frowns and your photos, or those wedding photos that turn out annoying because someone in the background was like drinking wine like this. It was a hilarious moment at the time, but you want to remove it. You don't like this about your reality. You don't like this about that reality. Just change the filter on your little goggles, or eventually they'll be in there, and just like change the filter like that and how you're viewing the world. You can literally, gaslight yourself into forgetting and remembering things that did and never happened, and convince yourself that the world is perfectly aligned with your expectations and how it should appear to be. Why? Well, the word I has been removed from the dictionary at that point, so I can't say I don't know because I don't exist anymore. Because I spent so long doing this, on the world, on my children's frowns, on myself, that everything just kind of went whoop away and away. And I'm trying to do the thing.